Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 288. 288, that's so many episodes. On Sifted Games at Sifted.net, I'm Shane Satterfield. I'll be hosting the show for the next couple hours of intense video game discussion. Alongside me to do that is Matthew Kyle. Matt, how has your week been?
Pretty good. Couple of games, trip to Disneyland.
You went to Disney this week?
Yep, Friday.
What did you go to see in particular, or just
it was for my friend's birthday.
Oh, private birthday party at Disney?
Not private, but he just wanted to go to Disneyland with anyone available, so we did.
That's cool.
It's good time.
What was the most fun thing you did at Disney?
Well, we did a lot of different things that time. The most notable thing that was different from the routine, because we have a set number of rides we go on. They had new sour cherry churros.
Oh, that sounds disgusting.
No, they were great.
Really?
They're one of the best churros they've ever done.
Wow.
It was really good with cream cheese dip. Very excellent.
That sounds gross to me.
And then he managed to get reservations at the Blue Bayou, which it's very hard to do. So we ate there. That was good times. He got a big chocolate Mickey cake for the birthday thing.
Awesome.
You have to order on your birthday. It's like a chocolate mousse thing. It's good
Had
stuff.
any of the rides or attractions changed since you were there last?
No.
Any additions or anything?
No. There's some closed. The Haunted Mansion went back to the normal Haunted Mansion from the Nightmare Before Christmas version. The Splash Mountain's closed now because they're redoing it as Princess and the Frog.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're getting rid of the Song of the South stuff because
reasons.
Yeah. I think that was about it. We rode Star Tours a bunch, tried to see everything, didn't get Hoth. Hoth is impossible to get here. Hoth never pops up in Anaheim, and Hoth always pops up in Florida, apparently.
Interesting.
I've never been on it. I've only been on it once in Florida, but not since they revamped it.
Oh.
Otherwise it was just, we went to Guardians at least twice, I think. It was a good day.
Awesome.
We learned the genie thing. It actually worked pretty well.
The genie thing?
Genie thing is like this new thing you add on to your pass, and it lets you set up fast pass stuff ahead of time.
That's huge.
Which they launched it in Florida a month or so ago, and it was just a disaster. So basically, Disneyland is getting sort of the bugs worked out already.
They're the beta test.
Florida already beta tested it. Yeah.
That's funny.
It worked out pretty well. It was a good day.
Awesome. I had my birthday since we did our last show.
So your birthday was the day after that.
Yeah, I had an awesome birthday. I got awesome stuff for my birthday this year. My mom got me an air fryer. What else did I get? I got a new iPad. I got a new stereo receiver. They finally have, pro tip, folks, receivers finally have figured out.
This is a long journey.
The HDMI 2.1 bug. So I got a receiver, not this Christmas, it just passed, last Christmas. And it was supposed to have HDMI 2.1 with 4K, 120 frames, pass through, and there was all kinds of bugs. And it affected every receiver that came out that year. It wasn't just the one that I got. They finally got the new HDMI boards into the receivers, so just want to let you guys know, if you're like me and you've been waiting to get a new receiver to pass through these new consoles, they now work. And so I got a new receiver, which is really exciting. I had a great birthday, so I can't complain at all. What else happened this week? Let's see. Actually, there's been a bunch of stuff that's happened this week. This show's going to be awesome, by the way. We're packed wall to wall with high impact, high interest games. Some other stuff. Pactor Factor. Questions for that close tomorrow. We're shooting the show on Thursday. We actually got the call for questions out early this time because in the last couple weeks, for whatever reason, I've been getting so many emails, DMs on Twitter asking when people can ask questions for Pactor Factor because all this big news has been breaking. So anyway, if you're one of those people who's been asking incessantly for the last 2 or 3 weeks, the call for questions is out there now. You can't miss it. It's on our Twitter feed. It's on the header of the website. It's on our YouTube channel, on the community tab. It's everywhere. So if you want to ask Pactor questions about huge stuff, like Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard or Sony buying Bungie or any of the other crazy stuff that's happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks, make sure you get those questions in now, and we'll be shooting the show on Thursday morning. What else? There's a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. It's supposed to focus on Switch games that are coming in the first half of the year, which should be good. You'll find that at Sifted.net. We'll be curating it. You can watch it there. What else? Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was delayed. One of my video game fantasy league
Which
picks.
is something I suggested, as I recall. Didn't push too hard on it, but
It makes no sense, Matt. It's
And we're probably not getting Gotham Knights this year either.
What?
Probably not getting Gotham Knights this year either.
It looks
Arkham
like we
Knights,
are.
whatever it was.
It looks like we're getting Hogwarts Legacy.
Hogwarts, yeah, they're targeting September for that right now.
There's a book that's coming out that's like a companion for it.
Yeah, if the books are slated for release, it's probably coming. That's how we found out about the Mass Effect remaster originally. Was they had the Art of Mass Effect trilogy slated for I think February last year, and then it slipped to May. But like that's a pretty good indication it's imminent. So, but I don't know. Like, is it Gotham Knights or Arkham Knights? Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights. Yeah.
I don't know. They sure haven't talked about it.
Explain this to me, Matt. How do you show Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League in December? And say it's coming next year, and like 40 days later, there's a leak.
Yeah, like if this was July, it would be one thing.
I'm still not 100% convinced. I'm sure part of that is denial because I don't want to believe it, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, what they would have known in December that there was no way in hell it was coming out in 2022.
You'd think.
And also, I would mention, this is not, usually when these leaks happen, the publisher then, a couple days later, puts out a press release and says, the game's delayed. That has not happened. So, I'm still
Although they also haven't denied it.
That's true.
It's
That's a good point.
That's interesting.
That's a good point. I'm still holding a sliver of hope that it, in fact, is not delayed out of the year. It's just a sliver, though. So there goes one of my games for my fantasy team. Up comes Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Yep.
My first alternate, which, yikes, that is not good. And then it appears that the Amico is in dangerous territory, dangerous waters. The Intellivision Amico, who's been fronted by Tommy Tallarico all this time, he's decided to step down as CEO. The last date they gave was by the end of 2021. Here we are in February 22, still not on the market. They did put the games for sale in November. You've been able to buy Amico games since November.
Yeah, well, now they're talking about the games going up in price because they're supposed to all be $10 or less. Now they're talking about more expensive games.
Yeah.
There's talk that they're doing a fourth round of crowdfunding on a very shady crowdfunding platform. It has a Better Business Bureau rating of 1 star.
Oh, geez.
I dug into some of this a little bit.
Who would be dumb enough to donate to that?
Definitely some of the people who've donated to the Amico so far. I dug into that audience a little bit, and it's like I didn't know that demographic existed. Like angry 50-something men who think Nintendo ruined video games in 1985. That is a new one on me.
Look, I could get the first 2 rounds. After that, you're just might as well just flush your money.
Well, and there's stuff about some loan they took, I think, from Fig or something that it's just like it's like they have to pay back $100 per Amico sold. Like for it's some insane terms. Like it, like I don't know who entered into that job.
Amico is doomed.
Yeah, and there's talk that like they threw a $1.4 million at the manufacturer, and the manufacturer like can't give them the units, and they don't have any more money to get another manufacturer to make the units, and they might not get the money back from the first one. Like this thing may never exist.
Has it ever existed?
Doesn't sound like it
really
outside
doesn't.
of a couple of prototypes
that they used to make their trailers and things like that.
And then talking about like raise. I mean, this thing could be as much as a Switch, from what they're talking about. If any meaningful price raise right now, especially in Europe, is going to put this thing on par with a Switch in price, and like, it ain't no Switch, folks.
Yeah, well, they're selling it as basically a Switch
because
Tommy's whole line is like, this is a family-friendly console that you can play with your kids. I'm like, Tommy, that already exists,
buddy.
This
is called the Switch. Yeah. Also, like, you spent your whole reviewing career complaining about Nintendo making baby games.
Right. And now
sudden... you're making baby games that don't even look as good as Nintendo Entertainment System titles. It's bizarre.
You can't make this stuff up
It
sometimes.
is bizarre.
It really is. So,
and it doesn't even seem to be a scam because it just seems like it's
just a dumb product.
A failure. Like, no one's making out like a bandit here. Just everybody's just making horrible mistakes.
It's bad. Yep. So anyway, that's the update on the Amico. It's not looking good. I would not spend my money on any of that stuff if I were you.
I mean, there's been a lot of comparisons to the Ouya, but you know what? My Ouya showed up.
And it works still.
It worked. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it
theoretically.
It actually still kind of works as like a Raspberry Pi device.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else I can do with it because it got my name on it. So,
oh, right. I forgot about that.
The first waves, the Kickstarter ones were monogrammed or whatever. Right. I'm just like, well, nobody wants this. Like, what?
That's true. Like, you can't resell it now.
No.
Okay, so anyway, we're about ready to kick off the show. Let's check in with our chat, though, before we do that. Let's see if anyone's hooked us up with some Twitch Prime early on in the show. Happy belated birthday. Thank you, AJ the Legend Watson. Appreciate it, man. Sneaky Shower Snake. Are them air fryers any good? So all I've done so far, and I did have a deep fryer before this, and I had like canola oil in it, so it was all no cholesterol, because I have cholesterol problems I've developed here in the last couple of years. But you're still eating a lot of oil. So if you make fries in a deep fryer, you're eating a lot of the oil. They soak up the oil. And so I got the air fryer for it to be more healthy. And all I've made so far in it is French fries, and they were amazing. I literally could not tell that they were not deep fried. So far so good. I haven't made like wings in it yet or anything like that. We'll see how that goes. But so far, I think it's amazing. I don't know how they do it. It's like this crazy thing where they just blow air around the food really fast.
Heat is heat.
It is.
Like if you can heat it up to the same degree that hot oil can heat it up, you get the same result without the oil.
Yeah. So I'm happy with it so far. Commander Fett, thank you for Twitch Prime. Mitch Secor, thank you for Twitch Prime. Anyone else? Adonis is Beast, thank you. Don Lionheart, thank you. I think that's it for the early going. We have a big show today. 4 or 5 gigantic games to talk about on the show. We don't want to waste too much time. Actually, there is one more note. And some people may be disappointed in this. I don't know how you guys feel about it now that it's happened for a while. There is no Name That Game this week. Bum, bum, ba-dum. I have run out of things to give you guys. I don't have any more stickers. After I ended up shipping out like 5 episodes worth of them over the last week. And
I
so if you guys
have a feeling people want to continue it just for the glory.
That could be. But I don't have anything to give as a prize. It's actually in chat. Let me know. Are you guys cool with playing without prizes for a little bit until I can get more stickers?
At least it means people could play over and over.
That's true.
It means the winners could come back in.
That's true. I am getting new stickers made for our Sticker Shock tier on Patreon, but they're only going to be 3 different designs. So going forward, instead of getting 5 stickers, you only get 3 for Name That Game. But still, you're winning something, which is, I think, awesome, just for showing up and watching our stream. I don't know if other streams do that, but I always try to hook you guys up whenever I can.
If anyone gets 10 in a row, they get an air fryer.
That's way too much money. Justin Horman, thank you for Twitch Prime. Appreciate it, man. Okay, I think we're ready to rock, Matt. Are you ready to rock?
Yeah.
Let's do this thing. We're going to kick things off with the biggest game of the week, undoubtedly, and that game is Dying Light 2. It just came out on Friday. And so far, Matt, it appears that its Metacritic is around 7.7, 7.8, something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's about kind of where I was thinking it would end up. I know everybody was hoping to be like a 9 after all the hype and the build up, but like it kind of landed about where I thought it was going to, both in the critic consensus and in how I feel about it.
Oh, okay. So. Okay. Well, first of all, most of the critics who really docked the score, most of them said they docked it because of bugs. Mm-hmm. And I talked about this on Good Morning Gaming, the episode that went up this morning, that I am playing on PlayStation 5, which is supposed to be the platform that has the most issues, and I have not had a single bug. Not one.
I've had many.
Really? Are you playing PS5?
No, I'm on Xbox Series X.
Okay.
It's nothing serious, but like annoying.
I've had none. No glitches, not even like a body part clipping through a wall.
Oh, that happens all. I have like treasure containers. I've had you fight off guys like looting a truck or something, and there's like the chest is there, and multiple times I've had like the barrels that are part of the truck model covering the chest, and I can't get the stuff in the chest. It's just like little annoying falling off of ledges, and then instead of landing, because you can you get the skill to tap the B button to like roll out of it or like mitigate the damage. I fall and then I hover over the ground for a second, and then I hit and lose my life, and the tap of the button doesn't count to mitigate the damage. Stuff like that. Like
I've literally had not a single bug.
It happens. In like fighting guys and they end up clipping through the wall, or like there's my favorite one. So if there's like NPCs like in the world and they're fighting zombies or whatever, and you jump down and let the zombies see you, the zombies won't know whether to go for the NPC or you, and they'll just stand there and vibrate.
Really?
Yeah. And like you can let the NPCs pick them off or hit them with like throwing knives or something and kill them that way.
I've had no bugs at all. None.
Yeah, and different platforms are going to have different issues.
Before release or at release, a lot of people were saying the PS5 version was the worst, that it had the worst bugs. And there was just that little patch that I downloaded when I first got it it maybe took 10 seconds to download, so it wasn't gigantic. But I've had no bugs at all.
I mean,
None.
these are the things that have happened to me over the course of like 20 hours. So it's not
Yeah.
like, it's not like they're constant. It's not like every time I play it, it's just riddled with bugs. Like, it wouldn't be something I would probably drop scores for, I don't think. It's just I've definitely seen it. But also, it's like a giant open world game where you're supposed to be able to grab almost anything on the side of any structure and climb up. I mean, yeah, there's going to be weird things in it. It's just the nature of an open world beast.
I just want to say off the start that I really like it. Like, a lot. Like, I really like Dying Light 2. And I will say that, I mean, I know that a lot of people dock their scores because of bugs. And I totally get that. You got to review what they give you. I'm not saying that they're wrong for doing that. But I think this game is way better than its Metacritic average. Like, way better. Like, at least a full point better than its Metacritic average.
But I don't agree with the reasons people are reviewing it low for. I don't think the technical problems are that serious, frankly. I just think it's fine. Like, that's not. I think it's not super different from the first one in some ways. The story is not particularly interesting to me, although I do appreciate one element of it that went a different way than I expected.
I have had 3 instances of that where I was like, "Oh shit!"
Well, I haven't had oh shit plot moments, but there's basically I was expecting to easily side with the survivors over the cops, over the peacekeepers, and I have been surprised by the fact that they have made both sides about equally reasonable and appealing.
Or repulsive.
I mean, both. Yeah, I mean, when I say equally appealing, I mean also equally repulsive. Like, there is no clear-cut choice between these two. And, like, early on, I was like, oh, the peacekeepers, like, fuck these guys. I don't want to deal with it. And then, like, you go back and have to deal with the survivors, and they're all crazy people.
Right.
And, like, you're like, oh, no one's cool here. Like, so you really got to weigh your decisions on those things, so it made it a more meaningful thing than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be easy, just sort of like, I'm going to go with the ragtag survivors just want to survive and have their food and not get beaten down by jackboots. And in the end, it was like, nah, Peacekeeper's got a point. Like, and Carl's kind of a dick. So like, so I'm pleased by that. I think mostly,
I think the story's great. I think it's freaking awesome. I think it's one of the best open world stories I've played in years and years. Like, I compare this to Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed. I think the story in this is way better.
Oh, sure. If you just want to go with Ubisoft stuff.
Well, okay. Well, what would you?
I think Horizon has a better story. I think.
I'd probably agree with that, but that's a 9.7 game, Matt.
Yeah. But that's one of the.
This is a 7.7.
Yeah, but that's one of the reasons I'd call it a 7.7. Is I just don't find this. I think the story's much better than the first one.
Haven't you had like crazy situations where you're in a conversation with someone and you don't even realize that you're making decisions that are going to change something that's about to happen, and then it happens and you're like, oh shit?
No.
Really?
If the words are highlighted gold, you're making a decision.
Yeah, but like, so it's hard to talk about this stuff without spoiling it. So I went to meet with someone accused of doing something bad. I go there, I rescue the guy, and we're on good terms. And then as I'm about to depart, it starts this dialogue tree. And I don't really think anything of it. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is another conversation I'm having. I don't think it's going to change anything. Apparently, I had chosen some stuff that was wrong, and the dude's like, oh, I'm going to kill you. And I end up getting in a boss fight with this guy who 10 seconds earlier was a friend.
Was that related to water?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that was very obvious. I was starting a fight with that guy when I
had no clue. How did you know?
Because the option is gold. And if there's 2 gold options, it means that you are making an irreversible choice. Like the gold...
No, I get that. But how did you know the choice was going to result in a boss fight?
Well, I didn't know it was going to result in a boss fight, but I did know that he might want to kill me, like, because it might start a fight.
It caught me completely off guard. I never guessed any of that was going to happen. I was like, oh my God. And
I didn't know if it was going to. I thought it might just make an enemy out of him, but in more of a narrative sense. But like when he decided, he's like, nope, I got to kill you now. I'm just like, oh, I guess so. There we go. It's like, I get it, dude. It's cool.
I love the characters in this. I love how they're all being woven together. I like what you said, how you think everything's going to be black and white, and everything is just completely not. Like,
no, they found a good kind of grayscale morality on this for the most part. I'm happy with that. I just don't find the main story kind of I mean, maybe it gets some. I'm not actually that. I mean, it's a long game. Like, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not 500 hours, but like, I'm 20 some hours in. I'm still not in the central loop. Like,
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, partly because I keep getting distracted by side quest stuff. Because the side quest stuff is good.
It is good. I think it's all good.
It's good. It's not blowing me away, basically. And also, I don't. I played Dying Light 1 for 100 some hours. This is not quite different enough for me to be super enthralled by it. In the same way, also, I think progression is way too slow.
It is
way too slow.
Well,
like,
you can see why it's going to last 80 hours.
But also,
whatever.
one of my big problems with this game is every time I get a skill point, I go and look at the skill tree, and I don't give a shit about any of them. I don't care about any of the skills in the skill tree.
Some of them are cool.
A couple of them are, but like most of them are like not particularly meaningful upgrades. And I was like, well, I guess I got to get through that one to get to this other one I do want that like I'm not going to get for like 40 hours because I need like 60 more stamina to get that, and that's going to take forever. And like it's once you get past a certain point where you have upgraded enough that you can easily go into the dark zones and the Forsaken stores and stuff and get more, pick up more inhibitors to like level the character up. But early on, you're just sort of like kind of grinding through the missions to try and get enough like resources to then get the equipment you need to go in and do some of this stuff and not get killed in 4 hits. And I just find I find it starts very tediously, and it's getting better as I go. And I think it will open up tremendously once I get the grappling hook, but as the first one did. But I feel I have a little bit of KOTOR 2 irritation with it, where one of the things I don't like about one of the few things I don't like about KOTOR 2 is it takes like 9 hours to get your damn lightsaber, and I'm like, I know what I'm here for. We played another game in this series. I know what I'm here for. Give me my basic equipment already.
Yeah. See, I agree with that. Like, I don't think it should take that long for a game to get interesting. But I completely disagree that it's uninteresting. Like, I think it's been awesome from the first moment I played it. Like, I struggle to find criticisms for the game. Like, I understand certain people have certain preferences, but like objectively, again, I haven't had any bugs. I think this game is great. Like, the story has kept me sucked in. They keep introducing, and I think it's paced well. Like, they introduce you to somebody, you really get to know them. You really get to understand what their motivations are, who their homies are, whether you should fear them or whether you should try to work with them. And as soon as you get to that acceptance point, they introduce somebody else. And then that new person has all these new layers. Like, I really like it. Honestly, my biggest complaint, and I did not play the first one all that long. I don't know, maybe 10 some hours or something like that. And my big complaint with it was I hated the controls in the game. I hate jumping with R1 and like doing like the parkour gymnastics with the R1. It just feels awkward to me. Like, I went into the options and tried to change just jumping to the X button. Like every other frickin' video game on the planet. You can't. You cannot customize the controls in the game. So I fell off from the first game because I did not like the gameplay. And this game is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And that is my biggest gripe with this. The combat feels a little better than the first game. It's still not great.
Yeah, it's still a little slippery.
Yep.
Especially when you're fighting humans.
Yep. And the parkour, like, I just don't feel... I can't just flow through an area. Even though... The level design in this is amazing.
Right. But that's the thing is you will eventually, once you upgrade stuff, and that's clear like when you do the parkour challenges, and you're like early on, you are literally not able to get more than a bronze. Like, you simply do not have the upgrades yet.
Because we should let people know, like, the skill trees are just split into 2. There's parkour, basically, and combat.
Yeah, which is simplified from the first one.
Right. And I like that, though. I like that the trees are much more simple.
The trouble with that is, my complaint is in comparison to the first one, like, and maybe there's more stuff that opens up, I don't know, but, like, the skill trees on Dying Light 1, when you went through like near the bottom, like the advanced stuff, there was crazy stuff in there. There was like crazy vaulting stuff, and like you can like smear zombie guts on yourself to be invisible to the zombies, and there was all these cool things you could do that I looked forward to getting. I looked down the skill tree on this, and it's just like, oh, finally I'll be able to jump higher. Like it's like none of the end game skills in this game feel like crazy advantage things that I'm like, oh my god, it's basically gonna be like cheating, like some of the high level skills and a lot of skill trees are. Most of the high level skills in this game feel like things I should have been able to do from the beginning. And
that would be a lot to do
at
the beginning of a game.
I can handle it. I played the first one a lot,
but I haven't though, and a lot of people haven't.
But you could definitely handle speed boosts over obstacles from the beginning. You could definitely handle the grappling hook from the beginning. You could definitely handle being able to pull a guy, dodge and knock a guy stumbling when from the beginning. Like there's the upgrades in early, especially the early upgrades are baseline abilities, and the later upgrades are like things I would consider like first and second tier upgrades in a more interesting skill tree.
Why do you think that they dialed that back?
I really don't know.
I mean, there's obviously a reason.
I think part of it is because they wanted to remain challenging. Like, there's a part in Dying Light 1 where you were just basically a god. And you can see that in some of the later DLC where a lot of the later DLC is just outright unfair because you were unfair. So they're giving you stuff that it was actually going to be able to compete with the player character fully upgraded. I think a fully upgraded Aiden is not going to be the force of nature that the fully upgraded whatever the hell the guy's name was in the first one was, who sounded oddly like this one, but was not. That's the other thing is the guy voicing Aiden, and I know this is just how this voice. I can't remember his name. I know how his voice actor.
He sounds like Nathan Drake.
Sounds like Nathan Drake. Sounds like Nolan North, like top to bottom.
Why does every video game character sound like Nathan Drake? It just seems like literally like 60%.
I don't think it's that much. I think this guy this guy is literally a Nolan North sound-alike.
Yeah,
like they brought
sounds
this
just
guy
like
in
him.
and
for less. They didn't pay quite as much.
Which is weird, and that's also weird because he does sound a lot like the similarly Nolan North sound-alike who voiced the main character in the first game. I don't know if he's the same guy. I didn't look that up.
Yeah,
but that's weird because they're not the same character. Right. So why do they sound the same?
Exactly. Yeah.
There was also a moment in this when I started this game where it was like. It takes place in 2036, and there was just a moment where I was like, "Oh wow, I'd be 60 then," and I'm like, "That's not that far away." I don't want to kill zombies right now. I'm gonna go outside and sit. There's just a moment where you have to admit that you are past survive the apocalypse age.
Yeah. We should probably let people know what the plot.
Like
of this
there's
game
moments
is.
where I see like the older people in this game, and I'm just like, "That's me. That would be me at this point."
That's hilarious. So the plot is you play as Aiden. He is what's called a pilgrim. They are people who, basically the apocalypse is a virus. There's a lab that starts the virus. Yeah, they stop it the first time.
Yeah, they stop it in the Dying Light 1 story, and then
they come back.
But secretly, the corporations continued researching, and then another virus got out and did the same fucking thing, and they couldn't stop it.
And you're Aiden. He's a pilgrim, and those are people who travel from area to area, which is
go out in the wild, which is
right. Which is very rare.
Yeah, you're treated as basically a unicorn.
Yeah,
that
so when you
trusts.
show up and people are like, "Oh, you're a pilgrim,"
after they try to hang you,
and they'll either want to hang you or like worship you.
Because part of the thing is like you get infected when you get into the city, more or less, and like the thing is like everybody in the city is infected basically, and the thing that staves the because everybody's kind of got a vaccine that sort of works, and then you can inhibit it with these inhibitor things, which are the upgrade thing, the hardest things to find, and in story wise, they upgrade your resistance to the virus. So every time it gets dark, or every time you're in a dark area, you have a countdown. It starts going down to when you're going to turn into a zombie, and so you have to get in.
It starts
in
at
the
like
light.
5 minutes usually,
and like it upgrades every time you upgrade your stamina or your health, and if you drop down to nothing, you turn into a zombie, and that's it. But you can keep it up by you can go into UV lights, you can go into the sunlight, and you can eat these UV mushroom things that give you not nearly enough time.
Or there's like an inhaler you can use that extends your time.
Oh yeah, there's like little things you can craft that help with that. But that's basically what you're dealing with. The one thing that I think is very funny in this game is that you are constantly running. A lot of the side quests and almost all the general opportunistic gameplay revolve around scrounging for things and finding objects you can use to build things and gluing two things together to make. There's one of the inhibitor chests. Gluing things together to make a med kit or stuff like that. But apparently UV light bulbs are no problem for anybody because there's thousands of them, and you never are asked to go get another one. No one is out there scrounging for Lowe's hardware stores to find the last reserve cache.
I haven't come across it yet. Maybe eventually.
I know. Every time you liberate a windmill or something, 4,000 UV lights pop up, and it's I guess we just figured out how to make filaments, but we can't grow pumpkins. Good. Yeah.
Matt, how do you feel about the whole mechanic of the zombies are more dangerous at night, and you need, once the night falls, you need to you have 5 minutes before you need to get to a UV light.
I mean,
that's another thing I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, the zombies being dangerous at night is from the first game,
Right.
like that. And like as well as like if you want to go into a building, you probably should do it at night because they leave the building to hunt.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But no, I hate having the exploration on a timer.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate having things like that on a timer.
I don't like it either.
Especially because like so much of this stuff, when you go in buildings, even at night, there's still zombies in there, and you got to stealth.
The clock turns real fast.
Yeah, you
too,
put
man.
me on you put me in stealth in a lethal situation, scrounging for equipment in a place I'm probably never coming back to, and you put me on a timer. Fuck you.
Yeah, you have to
I don't like that at
keep
all.
your eye on a clock.
It's really annoying.
I don't like games that do that in general.
No,
like,
not at all.
It's just an element of video games that I don't enjoy at all.
Like you want a couple of missions, like some of the missions in this are like you got to get through all the parkour gates before the sausages expire, like for a timer or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, like little challenges like that. But as base exploration gameplay, no, I don't like that at all. Like it's one of the most annoying things in the game. It would be different if and again, there's a little thing like it would be different if there were more ways to mitigate the timer. If the timer was longer by default. Again, if the timer upgraded faster. Or if the mushrooms gave you more immunity back. Like, I just feel like you're just nickel and diming me through all this stuff.
What I do, Matt, is as soon as night comes, unless I want to accomplish... Because there are certain missions that you can only accomplish at night. Unless I'm accomplishing one of those missions, I just go to sleep.
Yeah,
I just completely ignore the night.
And that bugs me because, normally the way I play open world stuff is I would want to clear out areas before I move on to the next story stuff. I want, there's not that there's side quests that I can't handle because they're level 3 or level 4. There's rankings of how, what you should be before you try them, and that's fine. But here's a level 1 fight against like a strong enemy, and you get inhibitors for being like a I don't remember what they call them. They're like you can only fight them at night, and they're in like a little quarantine zone thing. And I go in, it's listed as level 1. I'm doing pretty well. I'm about I'm probably ranked level 2 most of my equipment, and I go in. And I started fighting this thing at 1 a.m. and the sun rose while I was still fighting it, and he went back in the hole, and I couldn't do it. And I'm like, why is that ranked as A, level 1? B, why don't I have enough? And I realized I'm gonna have to level up my stuff for 10 hours before I'm powerful enough to come back and kill. The progression is like molasses in this game.
And I think they're doing that because there's so much content.
I think so, but it's not a solution. You got to extend that tech tree. You got to give me more, not less.
I mean, there's a lot in the tree.
Yeah, but it's all repetitive. It's all each set of 3 or whatever is the same ability, kind of slightly enhanced each time, and it's boring. And early on, even the first time you level up parkour and whatever, and they as they're teaching you to go, I look in there, I'm like, okay, cool, and I start continue getting you get parkour points for literally everything you do, but you get 3 or 4 or 7 or whatever for jumping up on a ledge or whatever. You get maybe 30 for landing a jump or whatever. And at one point, I go up and I just look at I wonder how close I am to that. I have 200 something out of 6,000 XP to get to level 2, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and combat goes so slow, you don't get anything for killing stuff.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. The only way to get it is to do missions or side quests and stuff, and that gives you hundreds or sometimes thousands of XP for those. But it's just.
As you said earlier, though, the side quests legit.
Oh, the side quests are good, but I'm just I just always feel like I'm
stuff like Cyberpunk 2077 or even the last Assassin's Creed.
But I just always feel like I'm scrambling to kind of get through them in the sense that either you got me on a weird timer and I feel like I haven't upgraded my stamina enough to have enough immunity to get through it, or you're throwing 8 dudes at me and I'm just this seems like a lot, and I've gotten through it, but part of, and I shouldn't judge it by how other people play, but I'm just a less experienced fighting game person than me might be I don't know how to fight these guys, and you got to learn how to incorporate the vaulting over guys, and and you got to,
it gets complicated,
pick up stuff in the environment. You got to learn that the bricks, they don't always mark all the incidental weapons until you're real close to them. You see a bottle, you can go over deal with the bottle, that helps a lot. But
I'm constantly scanning, literally every 4 or 5 seconds.
Oh, that's the other bug I run into is sometimes the scan just doesn't work.
Really?
Because and sometimes normally it works. I mean, no matter what you're doing, pretty much, unless you're falling, you can do the survivor sense thing. Sometimes it just stops working, and I have to move around or something to get it to do it.
I've had no problems with the game at all, not one.
That's probably the most
little thing.
And also, I've never seen anything like that. All this stuff must be in the middle section because the beginning takes place
hour 60.
Yeah, the beginning takes place in sort of a lesser area that you're in. The whole goal is to get through this tunnel that gets you to downtown in the main part of the city. But that prologue's 30 hours. It's taken me a while, and I'm sure I could be beelining faster, but you know, I'm getting some distracted, and some of it's just I want to run around and learn how things work and poke at things. And I do love the binoculars thing. I love being able to look around and see stuff and mark them and figure out where they are on the map and all that. That's fun.
Yeah, open world stuff, it's, again, very similar to other games. There are bandit camps that you take over, and man, once you take over one of those, you get hooked up.
Yeah.
Like, you find their treasure room, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, so I will say that this game is much better at giving you worthwhile loot when you do things in the first one.
I appreciate the loot that I get, and most of it is not just that 0.1% higher.
No, most of it's a real jump.
It's a legit,
and they're pretty good about giving you. As for me, they've been pretty good about giving me higher quality versions of what I'm already wearing. Which is, you know, if I'm wearing like I have like Archer, I'm using Archer wraps, which give me like a nice stamina boost, and I've gotten like 2 more, you know, a blue and a purple of those going forward. I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's intentional, or if the algorithm of the random loot like knows what I'm using and does me a favor. But mostly, I've been happy with what I've gotten, being in the wheelhouse of what I'm trying to build the character into, as opposed to like, you know. You're just giving me all this stuff for this version, like, you know, giving me all tank stuff that I don't want, you know, because I want to do more finesse stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I've been pretty happy with the loot system. I was not particularly happy with the loot system in Dying Light 1. Dying Light 1, a lot of times...
Again, I didn't play it enough to even...
You went through a lot of stuff in Dying Light 1 that in the end, you finally open the chest. It's just like, oh, good, coffee. You know, it's like...
I have lots of packs of cigarettes in this game.
Yeah. I have a lot of money now. I got
because you sell all your stuff.
Yeah, they're very generous with how much... I mean, you find, every once in a while, I'm just like, wait, I just found like a $600 bottle of alcohol in this one... I'm like, cool. Like, you know, it feels nice. Like,
yeah, it does. And then there are windmills that you have to climb up, and they're like first-person platform puzzles where you have to climb up the windmill. Once you get there, you can take control of it, and then that sets up a base for you and your comrades, and it's a fast travel point from that point forward. So a lot of the tenets that you know from open-world games are in this game, and I believe handled very well. And we also forgot to mention that Aiden is looking for someone. Yeah. That's really the crux of the whole plot.
Let me know, like, there was like the thing there was he's running through the thing, he's jumping, you know, fast jumping through that takedown. That's like five
you gotta earn
trees
it
down.
sure.
Like you're not going to see that for 60 hours. Like it's like a bunch of this, you know, the knife thing. I can't even do that yet. Like it's just endless. It's just it feels like a grind. And it's like the thing is like it doesn't stop me from playing. But also, I haven't fought a big guy at all. Like,
I did.
I don't feel equipped to do that at all yet.
I did
because they're all surrounded by 40 dudes.
Don't be scared when you see him. Because I at first ran from him, and eventually I was like, let me see if I can kill him, and I did kill him.
I can't do that yet. I'm just, like, all this stuff is like late game upgrades you're looking at. It looks like basic abilities, the drop kick and the head stomp and stuff.
The drop kick you get right away. You do the vault over the enemy, and then you drop kick the guy behind him.
Yeah, but the drop kick you can do out of like just a normal jump.
Out of nowhere?
That's 2 more upgrades past that. That's like
Gotcha.
200 stamina.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. It took me a while to master the first one, the vault over the first guy, and then drop kick the one behind.
Some of the things, that wasn't too bad. The one that took me a long time to figure out how they wanted me to do it was the one where you drop down off a high thing and kick a guy. Like there's no prompt that comes up, and it didn't make sense to me how long they want me to hold LB for that. And eventually I got it, but like and then after all that, it wasn't even that good. It's like you only have to get it because it gets you past the rest of the tree. Yeah, and there's a lot of skills in the skill tree like that. Like just and there was some of that in Dying Light 1 too, but it's just all of them feel like that. And there's like 5 skills in that whole set of 2 skill trees that I actually want, and I'm just sort of like grinding towards them, and otherwise I just feel like I'm playing the same character.
I felt like every one I got was a meaningful upgrade.
I don't
I will agree that they're slow, but I mean,
a couple of them are meaningful.
Disagree with you on that.
Well, a couple are meaningful in the sense that like they should have been there since the game started. Like I should always have been able to get a speed boost vaulting off a thing. Like that's just how parkour works. I just don't get it. The other thing, I assume this is going to open up more as you see all this stuff because I haven't seen anything resembling this. One of my favorite parts,
vehicles. Like it takes a long time to get vehicles.
Yeah,
or
one of my favorite parts of the game.
Weapons.
One of my favorite parts of the game is the beginning when you're out in the wilds. You're not in the city. It teaches you to do stuff.
It's linear at that point.
You meet another pilgrim, and it's very linear. But like
it takes like what, an hour and a half before you get to the open world, something like that.
Close to that, at least an hour, I would say. Yeah. Depending on how good you are at following directions, which I'm not, so I kept poking around. There's nothing to find really, so it keeps you on track. But like that early part is interesting. You meet another pilgrim who you apparently haven't seen in a couple years.
But you have a history with.
Yeah, he has new information for you, which leads you to this city, basically.
My guess is he comes back at some point.
I'm thinking
eventually.
Yes. Yeah, he's probably back. I think he's going to come back and die horribly. That's kind of my estimate.
I don't know, Matt. I really like this game. I'll be honest with you. I've had more fun with this as an open world game than any open world game I've played in a long, long time. I also like it's a zombie game. I saw some people saying, like, I'm sick of zombie games.
It's not really. Zombies are incidental.
I understand that. But the other thing about this is that you get kind of all the shades of zombie games. You get, during the day, you get the slow Resident Evil zombies. Then at night, you get the dudes who could run like Mach 5. And then there's like these little things called like chases, where you can get chased by a group of zombies. And that's exciting and terrifying. Like,
yeah. Again, like that's from the first game. Like I've done that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And like,
I haven't played the first one that much.
Yeah. I think if you got a lot of time in the first game, I don't think this is going to be as different as you might be hoping it is.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for the idea that you don't need to. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, but part of the problem is like I got really used to playing. I started up Dying Light again last week just to sort of like get my head back around it a little bit and play a little bit, and I did. And that might have been a mistake because now all I do playing this game early on at least was realizing how few things I could actually do that I considered basic movement stuff in the first game. The fact that dodging and then dodging and making them stumble from the dodge, giving you an opening after you dodge them, are two different upgrades in this is ridiculous. Like,
but
you
if
are
you
splitting
dodge,
them up too much.
you can still waste them. Like,
unless you dodge too far and they slip around you. Like there's the combat's a little too slippery in this.
I'd agree. It's not perfect, but I still think it's good for first-person combat.
I mean, that bar is not super high.
Yeah, you're right.
The other thing is, like, I find weird I mean, maybe it opens up later, but I haven't gotten to it yet. You can't repair your weapons.
No, the only thing you can do is
you can repair weapons in the first game twice.
Okay, in this, all you can do is assign attachments. Have you noticed when you assign attachment, its durability?
Yeah, the durability goes back up. Yeah. But like,
I think when that's over, I think that's it.
Once that's done, you're done. But like, I don't mind but if I liked in the first game, if I found a weapon that I really liked, I could save it twice until it ran out. And by the time that ran out, I was usually I found another one that was like it, or I was able to upgrade another thing that I like. This one, I feel like all the weapons are a little too disposable most of the time. But when you do put the upgrades on them, the durability does get much higher.
It does.
It doesn't just regenerate, but it actually. They last much, much longer. So
you also eventually
right.
get weapons through the course of the plot where you'll help someone and they'll give you a weapon. A lot of those weapons, the durability is like 250 or whatever. Yeah. It takes a long time for the weapon.
Yeah, once you get in the purple weapons, it's like, okay, this is basically my weapon for the next 2 hours.
Early on, a little bit, but once you get it 4 or 5 hours in, like...
I mean, I hit a point where, like, early on, you're like just going through the weapons as fast as you can pick them up, almost. And then, like, later on, I started finally... It was a good feeling when I finally started, like, having to sell some off because they just didn't do enough damage compared to what I was picking up. But, like, I don't know.
I've been more than pleasantly surprised by this game. Especially after seeing the reviews, I was like, I expected to play it for like 10 hours and be like, I don't want to play this anymore. I'm 20 plus hours in, and I feel like I'm just getting revved up. Like, I became addicted to this game. I have played it pretty much every extra minute I had.
It sounds like you're having the Dying Light 1 experience with Dying Light 2.
Maybe.
Because that sounds exactly like what happened to me with the first game. And I didn't even know why. I was like, why do I like this so much?
Well, I do know why. I think the game's very well crafted, and the story's awesome, and I love the characters, and I love the setting, and I love how they handle the open world. I love that it surprises me all the time. I don't think the combat's great. I think it's passable. I don't think it's bad. And I don't think the graphics are great either.
I don't think
the gore is pretty awesome.
The gore is good. I think the environments are great. Like
they're pretty, but when you get up close to everything, it's kind of grainy. I feel
a little bit. I think that might be somewhat intentional. Like the people don't look amazing, the animation's not amazing, but like I'm continually impressed by the shadows and like seeing my own shadow in front of me.
Yeah.
The weight,
I'll catch my shadow sometimes and be like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?"
The billowing of the of like tarps on things. Like there's little details that make it pop that I think
the
really
world
good.
is insane how detailed it is. How gigantic it is. The level design is amazing because it's built for the duality. And again, this is something that you've been, because you played the first game a lot. To me, this is pretty much brand new. Just the way that the levels are built. What the top of the buildings are built for night, and then the ground is built for the day. But the way everything is strung together so that you can create runs, like parkour runs through the environment, like that takes a lot of effing time, man.
That's good. It actually reminds me of early Assassin's Creed, where they actually
they thought about it.
Yeah, where they thought about it and design. Yeah, when you the Ezio ones, where you're like you could, if you step back for a second, you could see the line and you knew where you needed to go, and it wasn't always obvious.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed parkour better. It is. It just is. I feel better. It feels better to run through the levels in Assassin's Creed than it does in this. Maybe I'm
partly
just
because
used to Assassin's Creed.
The old ones, maybe. I think the new ones are too automatic. So I actually prefer how they do it on this because there's room to fuck up, basically.
Yeah. I've died a lot in this.
And death is not particularly painful.
No, it's not punishing. Well, there was one time I died and they spawned me 400 yards away. At like one of the bases or whatever, and I had to run all the way back. But the funny part was, when I got back to that spot, it had actually saved like a mid-skirmish checkpoint, which was bizarre. I was like, oh, I'm going to run all the way back there. I'm going to have to do that whole sequence over again. And I didn't. Like, I got there, and like the people that I had killed were still dead. I really like it, man. I feel like the aggregate score of this, and that's Techland's fault. You know, letting the press play a build that was that buggy. That's not the press's fault. That's Techland's fault. Why do you think Techland did this, Matt? Because, I mean, I feel like I'm playing a different game from these reviews.
I mean, do you think
you don't because you're having bugs? But I've had none.
I mean, I haven't had. None. I mean, what bugs were they talking about in the reviews that were, or are they talking about the same things I'm talking about?
No, worse stuff like cutscenes not firing off, voice acting disappearing, quest items disappearing. So
I've never had anything
so they couldn't
like that.
Complete quests.
No, I've never had anything like. The other thing that I noticed is. The cutscenes in this seem to be they're either pre-rendered or running at a different resolution because the lighting changes.
Well, they tear.
They don't tear on Xbox.
Let me show you this. I'll show you right here from the beginning of this.
I'm playing on performance mode, and when I switch to a cutscene, all the lighting changes because the cutscenes are in quality mode.
Watch this cutscene. This is on PS5 again. The screen tears. There's tearing in the middle of the screen.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, that's not on Xbox.
Okay.
I haven't seen any screen tearing.
See it there?
Xbox. Yeah, I see it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I see it there. Look at the fence.
Yeah. Isn't that
I don't know.
Isn't that weird?
Weird. Like VSync you'd think would be pretty
I know.
Pretty standard.
But... I really like this game. I would recommend buying it at full price. The problem is the competition is so stiff this month. It's like, so people will say, okay, I should buy this, but Shane, would you buy this or would you buy Horizon Forbidden West? And I'd probably say buy Horizon Forbidden West. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that this isn't worth buying, though.
No. Also, this game, if the first one's any indication, this game's going to be around forever, and they're going to support it for years, and there's going to be a reason to buy it later. No question. You know, there is no bad time to buy this game, I don't think.
Yeah. Because I doubt the price is going to drop too quickly because it is selling well. It's like doing, at least on Steam so far, it has really good numbers.
But I bet if you don't care, if you'd rather play, Horizon or whatever... and Elden Ring and all this stuff.
That's right. I mean, it's a crazy month.
I bet you'll be able to get this around Thanksgiving for like $30 total.
It's a shame. It's a shame that they sent a busted build to reviewers and the game got
It feels like that must have been just like a time crunch thing.
Just a huge mistake.
And also like I don't think you lose anything if you push this till like April.
No, I don't get it.
I think you get away from a couple of scary things doing that.
I don't understand it. I feel like it was not completely sent out to die, but
it
wasn't handled in the
I think there was a little
possible.
overestimation of how much the mainstream would care about this game.
That could be. But I am enjoying the living crap out of it. Like a lot of times when I play a game and I get to X part and then we come in and we talk about it, do I go back and play that game again? Probably 50% of the time. I'll actually go back and spend more time with the game. Like I played maybe an extra 4 hours of Pokemon Legends Arceus since last week. This game, I'm absolutely playing until either I start playing Elden Ring or I start playing Horizon Forbidden West. I really like it. And it's a shame it released in this month with so much competition, and they sent a buggy build to the press. Because I do feel like if people were playing the PS5 version that I'm playing right now, that aggregate score would be way higher. So it's a shame. I want to check and see if you guys have any questions for us about this game in the chat, because I feel like this is one of those franchises maybe a lot of people didn't dive into the first time. And now listen to me talk about it, and they're like, whoa, maybe I have questions. Maybe you guys have some questions now. Or maybe not. Oh, here's one. AJ the Legend Watson, is the parkour better than that of the Mirror's Edge games?
Yes.
No. You think it is better?
I think it is, yeah. Because it's more freeform.
That's true. Yeah, everything was kind of just like predetermined in Mirror's Edge.
I like Mirror's Edge, but Mirror's Edge felt a little more on rails than it should have been. And this...
You can go anywhere.
You can do whatever you want and try whatever you want. And especially once you get some of the once you get the grappling hook, once you get the paraglider, like it opens way up.
Yep.
And part of that is frustrating. Part of the frustration for me is I know that stuff's coming, and I'm just like, just let me play. Like I'm standing up on top of the thing, top of a tall thing. I'm just like, where's the fucking zip line? Like, where do I need to go? Or the stupid. That's the other thing I don't like is like there's places where like usually they're marked with like a mattress or something where like you can jump off a roof and there's like a marked X marks the spot, like big soft landing pad for people to land on.
I wish there were more of those.
There should be more of those. Also, in the first game, it kind of auto targeted you onto them. It wasn't like it was just kind of soft as assumed that you wanted to land on that and you land on. I miss those all the time in this game.
There aren't enough.
No, they're not.
I end up just jumping down and taking damage all the time because I'm just like I'm not going to run all around looking for a mattress to fall.
I think it's just a little slippery in places like the landing on like narrow beams. Sometimes I'll just randomly kind of walk off the other end of them, and I'm like, the game should know what I'm trying to do. It should know that I'm probably don't want to just slide right off the thing I just jumped onto. Yeah. So I could use a little more assists in that regard, just because it's hard to gauge distance on narrow landings when you're in first person in these kind of games.
The environment is very detailed, so they have to account for so many objects and what you may or may not do. That would be a big job to handle that for every object in the open
I don't think
world.
it'll be that. I think you just universally make all those beam. Every beam in the game is the same beam. It's just put in a different place.
So it creates some kind of a semi-lock on.
Yeah, just a little thing that tells the game like if they're jumping on this, give them like a split second to not fall off no matter what they do. Yeah. And then if they move again, once you reset the analog stick and start moving again, now all bets are off. If you want to like push to the right and just fall, I guess your problem. But like I shouldn't slip off things because after I just jumped on them. Like it knows what I'm going. I mean, why am I? It's either I'm trying to land on the beam or I'm trying to jump over the beam and land on my death. Like, what do you think I'm doing?
Right.
Like, is that kind of thing. It's just a user friendliness. Like, and it's not, maybe not fair, but like sometimes that stuff has happened, and I'm thinking like Insomniac wouldn't have done that. Right. Like they would have known what I wanted to do. Like the game would have known.
I doubt Insomniac will ever build a game this big.
No. And sometimes
it would be awesome if they did, but I doubt it.
And sometimes like you can tell they know, especially at the windmill stuff, where it's like that's going to happen because the bottom of the windmill is all covered in trash bags that don't hurt you when you fall on them.
Yeah.
But like maybe the other option would have been to make the jumping system less.
Some of those windmill, they're tough.
Yeah, a couple of them like early. It took me a while to realize like, the ones that are red, I can't get up to the top.
I have no chance.
Yet.
I don't have the abilities.
Like my stamina is not high enough.
The other thing about this game is that I found myself upgrading the stamina before everything else.
Yeah, I did one. I did one health upgrade just to because I was annoyed at how fast my health went down after a couple hits, and after that I've only been doing stamina.
Yeah. Pro tip: you should start playing the game. One last question from Playland MX. Is the game relevant if you don't care much about the zombies troop at this point? Like, is it fun even if you don't care about zombies?
Yeah, I don't care about zombies at all. I never have cared about zombies.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me either.
Zombies are one of the most boring enemies in anything to me. But like,
they're just enemies.
They're just obstacles. Like,
and they're very
the real monsters are us.
Yeah. I mean, the plot does kind of.
Yeah, the real fights in the game are against people,
humans. Yeah.
That's where the combat system shines, really. Zombies are just cannon fodder. Like you can plow through like 7 zombies in the time it takes you to kill one person.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I really like it. I recommend it. Although, to be fair, there is Elden Ring and Horizon coming here.
Also, most of the zombies you fight are your choice to fight.
Yeah. Like during the daylight, you can just run past them all.
Yeah,
you don't have to
you can avoid if you don't want to fight a zombie ever. Yeah, you're probably fine, except in like certain moments where like
not at night though.
Not at night, but also like you can avoid if you got to stay on the rooftops. You're fine. Yeah,
it's hard though. It's hard to stay on the rooftops all the time. But again, I really enjoyed this game. I'm surprised you guys don't have more questions about it because I do feel like the reviews are, again, I feel like the reviews are low compared to what I've played. So I thought maybe that might generate some more questions.
I think the reviews are pretty on target, but for different reasons. Like I have not run it. I mean, yeah, I'd be pretty mad if it erased my save. Like Sneaky was saying, that was one of the bugs they were running into. Like, yeah, that would be the end of it for me.
Oh yeah, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah. But like, no, I have not found any more. I mean, I've seen some bugs and technical glitches, but nothing more than I'd expect from any standard open world game. If Starfield launches with the amount of bugs I've seen in this game, I will be thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I've had none, so I would be over the moon in Starfield.
Absolutely nothing, except for the floaty landing thing that screws up my damage mitigation move. Like, nothing notable.
Now, I do wonder if I get to the hour 70 mark, and at that point, the game is keeping track of so much stuff, then maybe that's when the bugs start showing up.
Yeah,
but I'm literally almost 30 hours into the game, and I haven't seen one yet. So I don't know. I don't know what the story is there.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I recommend it. In another month, I would say it's a must-buy. It's tougher this month and tougher next month, too.
Yeah, the craziest thing about it is that, like, there's other things coming out this month that make it not an instant recommend. I mean, even as I like it, I don't love it, but like I would still say it's definitely worth playing. I'm gonna play it more for sure.
They should have held it till May or June.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been frustrating for us because we want to play it, but like, right. I think it would have been better for the game.
Yeah, well, I think it would have been better for us too because people, one, they'd have more time to polish it.
Yeah.
Two, I feel like the reviews would probably end up being more accurate to what the actual game is, so people would be more likely to give it a chance. I feel like a lot of people see that 7.7 and they're like, "Oh, don't have to worry about that one." And I do not feel that way about this game at all. Like,
I and also like I think like, it's just. Even as a game that I do like, it's up against Horizon, which is one of my game of the years, and it's up against Elden Ring, which is the permutation of one of my favorite games. It's like, it has no... look, how about this? If I find myself going back to Dying Light when after Horizon and Elden Ring are out, there's a problem.
Batten down the hatches.
Yeah, there's...
Yep. Noah Elric, would Bethesda call it an immersive sim? No. It's not an immersive sim.
No, I wouldn't call it that. In part because I don't call anything an immersive sim because that's an incredibly stupid term. But no, it's not. It's not that at all.
Yeah. There's some stealth in it, but it's very light. You don't even have to. They try to tell you to do it. That like my first bandit camp. They're like, you should stealth your way in there, and I just said okay, and I just literally ran right into the bandit camp and just went in and just killed everyone basically. Bandit camps are tougher in this than in other open world games. I felt like the enemy that I had to kill, it was like a boss fight basically, instead of just like another enemy that's a little more inconvenient to kill or whatever. I had a lot of fun with it. You should check it out. We still have a couple more weeks that we need to play stuff until these two big games come out. So maybe you can find a window to slide it in there.
A week and a half.
What'd you say?
Week and a half.
Yeah, I guess it is a week and a half. Just unfortunate timing, really, for the game.
A week and a half, and then Horizon's got, what, about 10 days?
Yeah.
10 days before Elden Ring?
Yep.
Titan against a Titan.
Good times are coming, baby. It's awesome. And this is awesome, too. It's a great game. So, to me, that's 3 great games in 1 month, conceivably. That's a pretty good month. So,
I'll call it good. I'm not at great. Not yet. Maybe once things open up and I get my grappling hook, I'll think different. Yeah. I certainly did in the first game. Mm-hmm. But I think this thing starts way too slow. Okay. They should have gotten to it, and I think that skill tree should be vastly more gonzo. Like, I think the skill tree is too conservative.
Okay. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that just came out today, unless you pre-ordered it? Was it just pre-orders?
No, it was the deluxe edition. If you pre-ordered the deluxe edition, it went live on the 6th, but it didn't go live properly on PlayStation 5, so then they fixed it. I didn't know that. I just bought the deluxe edition because I'm an idiot who likes deluxe editions.
You thought you were getting it today?
I thought I was getting it, and then like yesterday, people were like, "Oh, it finally works if you have the deluxe edition for early access." I'm like, "For what? Like you can do that?" Like, so I loaded up and played it for a few hours.
The game we're talking about is Sifu. Is it Sifu or Sifu? Shifu.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a kung fu beat 'em up. Mm-hmm. It is PC and PlayStation
kung
only.
Fu roguelike beat 'em up.
It is a roguelike.
Yeah.
Oh, so the level changes every time.
The level doesn't change, but like it kills you and you have to start over and try it again. There's roguelike elements to it.
Okay.
And there's like opening shortcuts and different routes and effects on the character, and then like you can start back over, and if you've put enough points into something, you can keep that, and if you don't, you have to start completely over with none of your skills. It's a whole thing.
So reviews came out.
It is definitely a cousin to Returnal in terms of game design.
To Returnal, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Reviews for this came out over the weekend. They were all over the map. Mm-hmm. People who like games like Dark Souls gave it sky-high review scores. Everybody else, it was like anywhere from like a 5 to like a 7.
Well, the thing about this game is it's really hard.
Like really hard, right?
Extremely hard. And A, it's extremely hard. B, it explains itself terribly.
Really?
Like, it does not onboard you properly, I don't think. And
by this way, I have not played this yet, people, so right. This is all Matt.
So the way the game works, so you start by playing as the bad guy. Like the prologue, you play as the main villain who goes in and kills his master, which is what Sifu means.
Sifu means killing your master.
No, Sifu means master.
Oh, okay.
So someone is your Sifu. They are your sensei, or your a master of anything. But you can. So he goes in with his team, his 5-man band, and who all conveniently have different personalities and gimmicks, very obvious by their character design. And fight their way through this like dojo, and which is probably not. I'm sure it's not the Chinese term for that. That's the Japanese term, but I don't know I don't know Chinese. very
Mandarin,
well.
I guess.
Mandarin. Yeah, most of this I think is supposed to be Mandarin. There's a whole thing with like this game was built by white guys who got like 2 Chinese guys to like put input on it, and a lot of it's wrong. Like the like when you die, a Chinese character pops up that supposedly says, you think it probably says death because in English it says death, but it actually says fall. But it's the wrong fall. It means like fall from a height, not fall in combat. Like there's a lot of stuff.
So
like,
they messed it up.
The research was not done very well on this in terms of like the Chinese culture stuff. It's basically a bunch of dudes saw a lot of kung fu movies and decided to make a game out of it.
And then hired
a
Chinese
couple.
person
Yeah, but like it's like, you know, look how
consult.
But also you don't know like, you know, think about how many Americans you could hire for like English and American like cultural assumptions, and how many of them don't know the difference between there, and there.
Right.
You know, like just
Or
because you got one person from the culture involved doesn't mean that they know everything they need to know, right? You need more eyes on that. So I think they could have done a little better job on that. And the people I've seen online are kind of like, yeah, like a bunch of the Chinese characters are nonsense, or they don't make, you know, these are wrong, or the translations are weird, but like. I don't know any of that because I don't know anything about Mandarin or Chinese script or anything. So, but you know, a lot of the people I know who do are not thrilled by how this turned out. Anyway, so you play as the leader who kills the master, and once you do that, it cuts to this the master's child who is hiding in a cabinet and comes out, and they're like, well, too bad, kid, and one of them cuts the kid's throat.
Oh, geez.
And you get to pick whether the kid is a boy or girl. But the kid survives because they have a this like it's a red cord with coins on it that is like a traditional like funeral thing, but basically the coins bring you back to life.
Oh.
And so then there's a really cool, like the opening credits are really cool. The opening credits are like a movie with like, you know, everything's red in the background and you're the character like fighting, and periodically it introduces one of the 5 main villains, and it teaches you a new move. And you have to beat that villain, and then the credits continue.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a James Bond credit sequence almost, where like people moving around while the credits go up.
Yep.
It's cool. The presentation of this game is pristine outside of the tutorial stuff. And then it jumps to being you're 20 years old. So you're 12, I think, when the prologue happens, and then it jumps to being 20 years old. And you have your little like conspiracy board of all 5 of them with like little things you fill in. Mm-hmm. And you have to your first one is to go get I think it's the gardener or something. He's the guy who cut your throat.
So it's a revenge story.
It's a revenge story. You work your way through. It's the crow basically. So you go to the first level, which is like you have to get in this warehouse. And you have to basically fight your way through a bunch of guys, and that's basically the story. There are a lot of references to the raid. There's a section in the first level which is a direct reference to the hallway fight in Old Boy. It's pulling from movies a lot. Asian cinema, Asian extreme cinema, I suppose you'd call it. Which I love that stuff anyway.
Yeah,
so I recognize what they're going for here, and a lot of it's really well done. The trick is you die real easy. So if you watch this footage, you'll see sometimes when you can block, and when you block, you'll see that a bar at the bottom is sort of filling up to red. That's your structure bar. If your structure maxes out, you can then be hurt.
Okay.
Basically, it's kind of a stamina thing, and you can bring it back down by doing, you know, killing guys or countering or not getting hit or dodging instead. And then you kind of run in and hit them. You see that was a double hit, like a triangle and circle together.
Yeah,
that's an insta kill, and that will give you some health back. And
wait, that gives you health back?
Gives you a little bit of health back, yeah.
Okay.
So you want to do that every time you can. And then
what initiates that?
Knocking their structure down to nothing.
Okay. So he threw something.
Yeah.
So you can throw like a ninja star or
in that case, I think you just threw an object. You can also get an ability that lets you throw. If you can see there, like the little R1 buttons popping up there. That's a skill you can buy that lets you kick any object in the room at someone.
Oh, okay.
That, by the way, very useful.
Yeah.
So the way this works is as you beat guys, you get experience, and then when you go back, when you're in, you find these shrines, or when you die, you can go into the skill tree. And the skill tree, you can buy a skill, right, for like 500 XP or whatever. Mm-hmm. The trick is that only lasts for this run.
Oh.
So if you want to buy that skill to unlock permanently forever, anytime you restart a run, you'll always have that skill. You have to pay 5 times the XP cost.
Oh.
The trick is, so if something's 500 XP, say, and the permanent unlock is 5 times 500, you can just spend 500 and now it will be 4 times 500. So over the course of multiple runs, it stacks, and you can eventually unlock that thing permanently.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that way. And then the other side of things is when you die, the coins resurrect you. The trick is you get older when the
like
coin
visually
resurrects.
you look older?
Visually and numerically.
Really?
So and it matters. So you start at age 20, and it matters like how many deaths you've had. So every time you die, your age increases by the number of deaths you're on that coin.
Jeez.
And so, like, if you've died 3 times and you're 25, if you die and you've had 3 deaths, you're now 28.
Does it alter your speed?
Yes. As you each
Really?
decade of your life, once you hit your 30s, your damage goes up and your health goes down. Your defense goes down. Basically, you're going to get hurt more easily, but you do more damage. And each coin breaks as you go through each decade, and once you get maxed out, basically you die because you run out of life. And the skill tree, there's like different groups for each decade. So once you pass the age of 29, you can't get the bottom group of skills.
Can you get up at a point in this game where you just have to start the whole thing over?
No, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So the trick on this is, so your life goes up and up and up. There are, if you beat certain enemies, you can get your death count dropped by 1.
Okay.
So you can kind of mitigate that. So if you die again, like you only lose one year. So when I first beat the first level, I was 67 years old, because I died so many times. So the funny part is that when you finally kill the boss, she says, "I waited 8 years for this," and I'm like, "Nah, I think you waited a little longer than that, lady." Like, so then you go back to. So once you finish the level, you go back to your home base, your
dojo or whatever.
Yeah, there's an actual Chinese word for it, but I can't remember. Wuguang, something like that. I can't remember what it is. And then you can go pick the next level. The trick. So you start the next level as old as you are, right? Mm-hmm. And then I started level 2 at 67, and I could only work. Once you get to like the late 70s, you're running out of coins, basically. And then I was dead, and I had to start completely over. And so now I could start over the second level at age 67, or the way it works is you can restart a level at the youngest age you were when you started that level. So what I could do is go back to level 1, which you start at at age 20, because that's the beginning of the game, and try to get through that level without dying. And the second time I went through, and I unlocked some shortcuts, and I knew how the combat system worked better. So the second time I got through, I beat that level at age 25. So now I can start level 2 at age 25.
Okay.
And that is how you progress. 5 levels, and that's how you progress through the game. Is you kind of master each one to the point that you can get through with minimal age deaths.
Yeah.
And so you have a younger age to start the next level at, and you carry forward.
Okay. But conceivably, you could get to a point where you're like 100 years old and you have no chance of
which means you got to go back to the previous level and do better,
or all the way to the beginning of the game.
You could do that if you want, but you erase everything you've done since then. So you're starting completely over if you do that.
Sounds like you just have to play it over and over and over.
There is an element of that, yes. But the trick is that the combat system is extraordinarily good.
The reviews are unanimous.
It is an exceptional. The only problem is it doesn't explain itself very well. So I will explain to you how combat in Sifu works after 3 hours of figuring it out and not understanding what it was telling me to do, and then realizing, The 2 main things to remember is, like, early on they teach you parrying, which is done like parrying everything. You hit block at the instant the hit is going to hit you. Mm-hmm. Parrying is useless. The only thing parrying is useful for is the final boss of the entire game.
Wow.
What you want to do is dodge and really avoid. So dodging you can do on the R2 button, like you can sidestep stuff. But avoiding, you hold block. This is one of the things it doesn't explain to you. The way it's phrased, it kind of sounds like you have to tap block. You hold block L1. And you move the left stick up or down. Up will dodge lower. What is it? Yeah, up dodges low attacks and down dodges high attacks, or it might be the other way around.
Seems like it should be the other way around.
It might be the other way around. I don't remember. It's muscle memory now, so I don't remember.
Yeah.
But basically, you can block, and they're doing a combo, and they pull out like a glowing moves. You can't really block effectively, but if you do a low or a high dodge, avoid, you will duck under it, and this is the key, especially with bosses. That damages their structure.
Oh.
That is more important than hitting them.
Interesting. So you want to chop down their structure
because
first.
When the structure drops, you get that grab kill, right?
Yeah.
You can beat the first boss without ever hitting him. You can just dodge all his stuff, his structure drops, and you get to pull the grab move that moves you to the second phase of the fight.
Wow.
Like,
that's kind of cool.
It's a really there's not really a system like it except maybe I I can't remember. What was that melee combat like MMO game band with an Absolver? It's a little like Absolver. You remember that game?
No, that was like a first-person cyberpunk adventure game.
No, Absolver. It was a combat game. You might be thinking about Observer.
Oh, you're right.
Absolver was like it was weird. It was abstract. They were kind of almost like puppets. They were almost like wooden puppets.
Oh yeah, I remember that game. Yeah,
the combat system in that it's similar to this, except this is more simplified because it's just the dodging, the avoiding is up and down, and Absolver also had left to right, which would
wasn't that game set during a plague as well?
I think so. Yeah, which would make this too complicated. I think. Yeah. And so the other thing is like you find collectibles and stuff in the game, and some of them, those all go to your board, and the board stays. So if you find keys in the first level, you will always have those keys when
you do that
first level
again. When you play through
and you go back and you can unlock new routes to get through things which are much faster usually, but sometimes harder. You have to fight more dangerous guys. You can pick up weapons. You can upgrade your ability to use weapons. There's just a lot here. And certain combos, like you can tell, you can prioritize stuff, and sometimes you might need to grind. That's why the Dark Souls people I think like it. Is like, even if you're just going through picking up like 500 to 1,000 XP in even the first level is pretty simple. So you're going to be able to make some progress towards permanent unlocks on your favorite like low level combos even early on, and then you'll have that to work with forever and be able to do better and better and better. And I'm pretty sure now that I've done the first level 3 times, I'm pretty sure I could do the first level without dying.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I could do the second level without dying after another couple tries.
But that's really what this game is about, is just perfecting the runs.
Perfecting the run and mastering the combat system. And once you do figure out how the combat stuff works, you are awesome. Like, you get to do some really cool stuff. And it's like that. Is that Dark Souls progression thing where, like, the first time I went in not this room, but the room after it, which is the nightclub thing. First time I went in that thing, I floundered my way through that fight to the point that I barely got through it with anything left. The third time I did it, no one touched me. Like, it was night and day, and it's purely because I learned how everything worked properly. And if that is a rewarding thing to you, go buy this game right now, because that's what this game is. If you don't like that, if I'm describing that and you're like, that sounds like my version of hell, don't touch Sifu.
Yeah. Do you think it would be generally safe to say that if you haven't enjoyed From Software's games in the past, you should stay away from this, or no?
No, I mean, it's different. It's roguelike to the point that, like, that's probably more important. And also, how good are you at Twitch-based fighting games? Like, were you really good at Sekiro? You'll probably be good at this. If you couldn't handle Sekiro, I wouldn't mess with this. Okay. This is one of the most skill-driven games I've played in a very long time, even by Souls standards, because it's so fast.
Because a lot of people are complaining about it.
Because you can die in 3 hits if you get the wrong guy on you. Like,
a lot of people feel like they were kind of, not
like that guy with the glowing bracelet things there. Like, he could kill you in 3 hits if you dodge wrong or block wrong.
Why do you think that this wasn't made more clear before release? Because look, people have played it. There's been tons of previews. No one really mentioned that it was like really hard.
I don't know. Like, I haven't been paying attention to preview stuff on this too much. I wonder if there's an element of, like, kind of that thing where sometimes you send people to review things that like the things, or can handle those things. You sent the Souls guy to go review this, and so he's obviously going to kind of I figured this out pretty fast. Whereas, like, if you go look at, like, Twitter or something, there's people that's like, I don't understand how to block or how to dodge. Like, that was a dodge right there. You saw the little, like, slow-mo thing happen. Like, that's dodging. That's
Did he just do a little jump up when she tried to sweep
dodge
his
the
leg?
low thing? Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, I can already see that this is.
That's the other thing about this game is the enemies. Almost all the enemies follow the same rules you do, which I really like.
That's fair. That's good. I do not think I will ever play this.
You will hate this game.
Yeah, I kind of figured, but I never would have guessed that until the reviews. I've watched plenty of preview coverage of this.
Like, I was expecting.
Nobody ever mentioned that it's like tough as nails.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be difficult. I didn't realize it was going to be quite so, like, moment-to-moment skill-driven. Like, I figured it was going to be like an endurance test, but it's more of a... It's not an endurance... It is an endurance test in the sense that you got to survive these things, but it's more of a how well can you learn this combat system up close and personal. Especially because, like, Dark Souls has trained me to keep kind of a mid-distance from enemies and let them come to me. And I'm doing that in Dying Light too. I'm like waiting for them to come in with a hit so I can counter the hit to stun them and hit them back. Like, that does not work. You are going to have much more success close up, and you can see it right there. Those are like those dodges he's doing. Those are holding L1 and moving the stick to get out of the way. And you have to learn what a high attack looks like. You have to learn what a low attack looks like for a bunch of different characters. And
there's a lot of memorization.
Bosses
in this
are very
game.
hard. Like there's certain attacks you cannot do that with, and you have to do the R2 sidestep to get out of the way of.
So
and
there's
those
a lot of memorization.
Yeah, and those are generally signified by colors on the moves.
That's
good. It's not like you have to know everything by heart, but like you got to, as soon as you see that red glow, you got to move.
Yeah.
And to be fair, most of those abilities are pretty. If the guy's diving at you from 20 feet up, you're probably not going to want to block that.
Yeah.
With your arm.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it is a bit of a slog. It is tedious. It is frustrating, but I think it's really, really fun. If you like that
type of game.
And and part of this might be me being impatient for Elden Ring. Like this is scratching that itch a little bit. It's
a good primer because it's short
also,
too. They're saying it's like 10 hours or something.
Yeah, it's 5 levels. So if you get good fast enough, you could probably finish this thing in 10 hours. But also like the temptation to go back through and do better would definitely be there for me because I think the moment to moment fighting is fun. Like that's the thing.
$40.
Yeah,
it's also an Epic Game Store exclusive on PC right now.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Would you buy it for $40?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, you knew you were going to talk about it on the show, or did you just buy it because you wanted to?
I would have bought this anyway. Yeah.
Okay. Are you happy that you paid $40 for it?
I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah. Like I wish it was at a time when I knew I was going to play it longer because there's these other games coming out and Dying Light 2 is still there. I'm like, but I'm going back and forth between this and Dying Light 2 yesterday, which is funny because Dying Light 2 is the light game compared to this one. Like
Dying Light 2 isn't really that difficult.
No, it's just long.
Mm-hmm.
Thematically oppressive, but and so this was frustrating for a while as well. It's like I'm like, how come hitting people with sticks doesn't hurt them enough? Because you're not hurting people isn't the point. Hitting them isn't nearly as important as throwing them off balance and learning how those extra moves
breaking
work.
Their structure.
Yeah, their structure, and then you get an You want, there's things that seem innocuous that you that I'm like, oh, I want a good combo. I want a big combo that I can hit them with a spinning kick, right? So that was one of the first things I bought in one of my early runs. And then, like, when I started running out of things to buy that I didn't already have, I'm like, I guess I'll try this, like, sweep kick thing that I don't really imagine. But that sweep kick thing, if you can do the avoid and get that slow-mo and you do the sweep kick thing next, you knock them off their feet and just beat them on the ground for a couple of minutes, like, that's it. Like, they're down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
done.
great. Like, it's... you have to prioritize prioritize utility over flash, which is sort of the opposite. Like in this game, I really like that. In Dying Light 2, I think it's annoying. Like there's not a lot of flash in Dying Light 2, but I think there's room for it. In this, it's like you earn the flash by learning the basics. You'll get there eventually, and like the challenge of some of the really good skills are only available if you're under 29. So that leaves this challenge.
So that's kind of like a demarcation you want to try to stay under.
Well, especially early on, because if you can
you
unlock,
roll up a bunch of deaths on the first level.
If you can unlock, because some of them are high XP, so you got to get 1,000 XP without dying at all, or at least not getting yourself past 29. But if you can unlock that skill before you turn 30, you get to keep that skill for the rest of the run.
No, that's huge.
Unless you start over again, which you would have to do to keep putting points into the permanent unlock for that skill, which is also a valid strategy, but that's going to take longer. So basically, it's like risk reward on that. Do you think you can get through the rest of this using this skill? Because if you get too far and you got to start over, you're going to have to start over without it and kind of go through the process of unlocking it again and then putting points into the permanent version.
Well, I'll just say this, Matt. I'm glad you played it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to, because the things you're talking about, I can just tell already. It would
annoy the living hell out of you.
It would, yeah.
There is no stamina bar, though.
Yeah,
so.
that helps.
You don't need one because they'll just kill you if you.
There's one in Dying Light 2, though.
Outside of the brief narrative section where you're weak because you've been infected or whatever, and like you can't climb anything for 1 to 5 seconds. I haven't found the stamina to be much of an issue.
I've just tried to climb things I shouldn't have tried to climb.
Yeah, there's some of that
early on.
I've gone a little too far in the monkey bars a couple of times.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I'm not going to make that last jump.
Yep. Here's first time chat from a new viewer, ChiroDoc23. Thank you for checking out GameFace on Twitch. And he says, I am loving Dying Light and Sifu. So that's great. Contano, I'm getting too old for twitchy games. My reaction times are not what they used to be. I'll be honest with you. I really don't feel like I've lost that much.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I'm not up to par with like a 20-something in like a fighting game.
Yeah.
But the other thing, like most of the games I play, like a shooter, I think I am not doing very well against a younger player who just has better reflexes. But in fighting games, I've noticed, when I play younger kids and stuff, I have been just doing that for so long that I know fundamentals on a level they just don't.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I win in a fighting game against a younger player, not because I'm necessarily a better player or I'm faster than them, but because I know that this frame does this, and if they do this, they have this many frames that I can get them on, and they can't do anything about it because I know 30-hit combo and like that. Yeah. Which is pretty basic when you think about it in terms of how fighting games work.
You're leveraging your experience.
Yeah, but like I know exactly what happens when a 2D fighting game character does that jump and lands on me. To the point that I can't explain why. Like
it's just an instinct, muscle memory.
I've had people say, she was like, so how did you know to do that? I'm like, I don't know. I just did.
I've done it so many times
because it's happened
happens.
So many. I've been doing this since before you were born.
Yeah,
like it's literally just
that's the truth.
It's like trying to explain to someone how to throw a fireball properly.
Well, it's funny.
No, just do that.
It's to the point now where I have been reviewing games longer, literally reviewing games professionally longer than a lot of our audience has been alive. Yep. That's insane.
It's like, go ask Tom Brady to explain how you throw a football.
Right. Yeah, he just does it.
Not that I'm the Tom Brady of fighting games, but like
let's look
go
at
ask Alex Valle the same question about that for a fighting game. Like he's probably about on par with that.
Vincent says, apparently people think the first level is really hard, but the preview build everyone got was the second level. So maybe that explains why they weren't talking about how difficult it was.
I think the second level's harder.
Interesting.
I mean, the first
maybe the preview build it wasn't.
Maybe I don't know. The first level's hard because, like early on, because the first couple of I didn't get hit for the first like 7 guys, and like racking up every time you finish a guy with the grab finish and don't get hit, you get another multiplier for your XP. And I was up to like 10 multiplier halfway up the building, and then I got hit and it dropped. I'm like, oh, okay, I get how that works. And then after that, I never got that kind of a streak again. It was total beginner's luck. I don't know.
Noxator United says the Surge 2 also had jumps and ducks as attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan Elric, someone did a speed run in 40 minutes.
I mean,
that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, if you know what you're
doing.
That
good and you know what you're doing.
I can see that.
Yeah, I could totally see it. Cinetyke, this Sifu feels like a dream for people who want to perfect their skill. I think that's accurate.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. Sound Wizard, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. Hope you're doing well. I haven't seen you for a while, man. Hope you're doing great, actually. Anything else? Deadly Virus Evo, second level destroyed me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Second level's a tough move. Well, especially because I was at 67 years old or whatever, so I really only had like 5 deaths left.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't last very long that first time through, and then I realized, okay, I got to go back and try the first level again without being quite so gray-haired. And I got through. I was 25, I think, and I was happy with that.
Okay.
I might go back again at some point and try to get through at 20 and not die at all. I think I could probably do that now.
Okay, we got to move on. We're going to talk next about. What are we talking about next? Ghostwire Tokyo. Brand new game from Tango Softworks, the studio started by Shinji Mikami, creator of Resident Evil. They have been working on the Evil Within games for quite a while. They have decided to completely change tact for Ghostwire Tokyo. It is a PlayStation and PC exclusive. They just announced that it is a timed exclusive on PlayStation for 1 full year. So the game won't be coming to Xbox or Switch, which is probably just not going to happen anyway. We should have mentioned Dying Light 2 is coming to Switch, by the way. They're doing a cloud version
thing.
of that.
I don't think I'd touch that.
But it's been delayed. It didn't come out with the other versions. But anyway, Ghostwire Tokyo, 1 year console exclusive on PlayStation. It's also releasing for PC. It's actually, the crazy part is we did not learn about what this game was until this past week. But
this thing has run silent in a weird-ass way.
Really weird.
Like almost any other game would have slipped to next year.
Yeah. And it's coming out March 25th.
Yeah.
So there's not long to wait for this, but
really weird.
Yeah, it is, but they did
not necessarily bad,
yeah,
but just really weird.
They did do, though, a big state of play-like presentation from PlayStation to really blow it out. It takes place in Tokyo, shocker. I think more specifically in Shibuya. And you control a character named Akito. He's a young man who he wakes up on the street. He doesn't know what happened. I don't know if he had a brain aneurysm, but basically the game starts, he wakes up on the street and there's all this fog around him. As it turns out, he's been possessed by this spirit called KK. Being KK's vessel grants Akito elemental supernatural abilities. So
is he a dog with a guitar?
Exactly. He has like ice spells and wind spells and things like that. This is not a first-person shooter. It's a first-person magic caster. However, you do eventually get a bow.
Texan.
And you do eventually get like these playing cards that you can throw. But for the most part, it's a first-person magic casting game. So you get these supernatural abilities to fend off demons that appear and have taken... So what happens is this fog comes over the city, all the citizens disappear, and they're turned into, like, demons. You need to restore these people back to their human selves. You battle them. They have this thing inside them that's called a core. You need to rip the core out of them, and that returns them back to their human form.
Hey there, demons. It's me, your boy.
Yeah, there's Slender Man there.
Demons. Demons.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that feels a little derivative about this game.
I mean, yeah, but it's also got that kind of Japanese mythology twist on it that sort of makes it feel different.
Yeah.
Like, that looks cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool. This looks like it actually would be a great Switch game, because what if you were doing these incantations with the Joy-Con?
I would be very irritated.
I know you would be, but some people would really like it. So yeah, basically you're trying to restore the citizens of Tokyo back to their human form.
Kind of reminds me of Mach and X.
A little bit.
Remember that?
Yeah. As you can see, you
it's another game that's older than most of the people watching.
It's true. You utilize hand signs. You can cast wind, water, and fire spells. There's also a string-like tool you've seen already in the B-roll called the Spectral Weave that you use for this thing called Ethereal Weaving. And that ties into a bunch of different elements. You use it for checking out and detecting objects of interest. You use it for removing the enemy cores, as I mentioned before. But you also use it for traversal. Matt, there's a little twist to this game that it's a little bit like Spider-Man. You have this grapple hook that you can use to swing around Tokyo.
Yeah, I saw some of that in the early while you were reading that. It was happening in the B-roll.
That was the most shocking part.
Reminds me of Dying Light.
A little bit.
There's some of that in Dying Light. Like you can, there's an element of that with the first person stuff.
But you can see there's skill trees.
I hope that skill tree is more interesting.
It's not very
big.
Probably,
not very big. But it looked like there might be multiple pages of it.
Yeah, I don't think this is an action RPG. I think this is an action adventure with just some very light RPG elements in it. At least that's how TangoWorks is describing it anyway.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the line between those two things is increasingly blurry. So.
Yep. You'll also be able to free untethered souls to gain experience for you to upgrade your abilities, which we just saw there with that tree. And then to actually clear the fog, you need to cleanse corrupted torii gates scattered around the city, and you'll see some of that in the B-roll eventually as well. How do you feel about this, Matt? The other thing I should mention is that they've discovered the PC version is just 20 gigabytes. So while this is a quote-unquote open-world game, and in fact it is the first non-linear game that TangoWorks has ever made, it does not, I would guess based upon that install size, that the world is not that big.
I don't know where you're getting that. Install size doesn't mean anything.
Well, texture size. So if you're repeating...
Dying Light 2 is 32 gigs.
If you're repeating the same... Well, there's something that... Well, actually, maybe on yours... I know on PlayStation they found a way to make install sizes smaller.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm playing on Xbox. It's like 32, 38 gigs.
Yeah.
And it's 500 hours or whatever. Like,
yeah.
It's not a small game. It's fine. Like I don't. There's no correlation between install size and game size really anymore.
I don't understand how that wouldn't be. You have to store those 4K textures somewhere.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the game's small. Like, it's a city. You can repeat textures all over the place on this thing.
That was like what I was getting at, was that there could be a lot of repetitive textures.
Yeah,
either way, it's not really a good thing. Is what I was getting at.
I think that's ridiculous.
Why?
You can't judge anything from install size. I don't accept that. It's ridiculous. You don't know what's in there. You don't know what compression methods they're using. You don't know what kind of repetition stuff they're using.
That. Either they've discovered one of the
what
was that company
one of the reasons install sizes
in Silicon Valley on HBO. What was it called? Grasshopper or whatever.
Huh?
Silicon Valley on HBO.
I didn't see much of that.
Well, it's a show about this tech company that discovers this new way to compress shit that no one else. So sure, if they found something like that,
one of the reasons these things,
it's either that or the textures are really repetitive,
No, it's not,
or
'cause
the
one of
world
the-
is small.
One of the reasons the install sizes have shrunk on PS5 is because you don't need to repeat texture information over and over again for ease of access, so you don't have to have long load times. And presumably they'd do the same thing on PC. I don't know, because maybe they're assuming you have an SSD on the PC as well, which you should by now. Let's be honest.
I mean, I don't.
Neither do I.
I have one for my OS,
I have one for the Windows drive, but I don't
Yeah.
have one for the game stuff I install. But no, I don't think you can gauge that at all by that.
I don't know. I wouldn't just write it off.
I mean, I don't expect this to be as big as Dying Light 2, but that's a nonsensical
I
comparison.
think I would
to me.
say I don't think it's nonsensical at all.
I do. I don't get what you're.
You
coming
haven't
from on that.
explained it, Matt.
I just did. Like you
didn't.
You don't know how.
You're assuming that they've come up with some way to compress shit that no one else has come up with.
No, I'm not.
The chances of that happening are slim to none.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that you don't know what's in this game. You don't know how many times they can repeat things if they need to, and like
That's what
much
I said.
much
It's either
longer
repetitive
games are much
textures or a
smaller.
small world.
How big is Breath of the Wild 2? How big is Breath of the Wild 1?
Those have crazy repetitive textures.
Yeah, but it's a
Like,
city.
the whole world is
does it
copy
look
and
like?
paste.
Does this look crazy repetitive to you?
My point is that it could not. The world could be small, and they just have all the mission objectives in this. And if it's just in Shibuya, then it will be small.
Yeah, but Shibuya is not that small.
We'll see when this comes out. Who's right on this? And I have
just
a
don't see-
feeling
I mean,
I will be right.
I think you're going to decide you're right one or the other, but I don't agree with you.
Come
like
on,
the
dude.
the fucking install size of something is not relevant to the length of the game. That is absurd.
It is relevant to the size of the world or repetitive nature of the world. I didn't say the length of the game. I never said that.
Ugh, okay. Move the goalpost. Move on.
I didn't move the goalpost.
Move on.
Rewind
I'm
the
not
tape.
arguing about this anymore. Move on. I'm
We'll
done.
rewind the tape and see who's moving the goalpost. It does not, I would guess, based upon that install size, that the world is not that big.
I don't know where you're getting that. Install size doesn't mean anything.
Well, texture size. What I was getting at was that there could be a lot of repetitive textures.
Yeah, but they're
Either way,
buildings.
it's
I don't
not
care.
really a good thing, is what I was getting at.
I think that's ridiculous.
Sometimes you're so stubborn, it's crazy. Anyway,
I don't see what the. I don't. Who cares if it's not huge? Who cares?
people who are going to spend $60 on it.
Why does it matter how big the map is versus how good the game is?
Because do you want to stay in the same 5-block radius for the whole game?
Does this look like it's 5 blocks? What are you talking about? I don't get it. I don't get what you're complaining about.
Because I'm using logic and
No,
reason,
you're not.
and you're just
using
making
a lot of
shit up.
You're using a lot of assumptions that have no basis in fact by just
What are
looking
you
at what we're
talking
looking
about?
at.
4K textures take up space,
Where is
Matt.
the 5 block radius
Oh my God.
here?
Sometimes it's
Have you
impossible talking about shit with you.
Back at you, dude.
You'll
I don't know where
never
you're
admit
on.
that
this.
you're wrong, ever.
I'm not wrong about this.
Ever.
You are.
You will never, ever admit it.
I admit I'm wrong all the time.
No,
Just
you,
not
not
when I'm
on
not
this show
wrong.
you don't. Maybe in private you do. But man, you dig in your heels.
I
anyway,
dig in my heels because this is ridiculous. The
Okay.
install size is not useful information in this regard.
Okay. Anyway, eventually you do get some projectile stuff. You get a bow and arrow. You do get a grapple hook, as I said, so it's a little bit like Spider-Man. They did say that you do have to use stealth at points in this game. They don't demonstrate it all that much in this state of play to see how it really works, so I didn't really get a good read
Yeah,
on
I don't know
that.
how you do a lot of stealth when your hands are glowing constantly, but
Yeah, it might be a little difficult.
maybe most don't see that.
Yep. And then they made like a statement in the press release. It said, it's not just the ghosts and demons trying to stop Akito from succeeding. Tokyo itself will get twisted and corrupted to mess with your hero's mind. So there's some other... I don't know if there's some alternate reality you get transported to that's inside your mind.
My guess would be that by the end of the game, like everything's all
Maybe
weird,
it's this
weird and
stuff right here.
weird and tentacly and dark, and you get some twisted version. You know, kind of like what Shin Megami Tensei does with Tokyo.
Well, the
all
Evil
time.
Within also did
Yeah.
that stuff. It would take you to like this other world sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be like a Silent Hill,
Right.
with more neon.
That
thing.
would probably be the best guess. The game comes out March 25th, as I said. It's PS5, 1-year exclusive, and PC. Matt, how do you think this game is going to do?
I think it's going to be almost completely unnoticed.
Yeah,
Like I don't see this breaking out of like kind of the enthusiast realm.
I don't either. Even I'm an enthusiast.
It is in a better release window than like Dying Light 2.
It's not that far
But
out.
it's
I mean,
not that
March.
far out. No, it's not that far out, and it's.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like I don't. You know, I think there is a kind of a not. If you're not already into kind of the anime Japan thing, like looking at this is going to be kind of an instant turnoff for those people. Like, I don't see this breaking out of its niche.
I don't either.
If that makes any sense. Like,
yep. And I don't think people are going to pick up on the fact that it's the next game from the team that made The Evil Within, because The Evil Within has actually done pretty well. It has a pretty big audience of people that really enjoy it and look forward to the next game.
And it had a lot of legs because they put that stuff on deep discount, and they were willing to, like, a lot of people played it over the course of years after release that would probably enjoy whatever they're making now. But, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, this looks cool to me.
It does to me too, and I want to play it. I just think its mainstream appeal is extremely limited.
Yeah, there's a hard sell on this to say, like, I don't know, the Skyrim crowd or something.
I think financially for Tango, and they may have just been paid a lump sum to make this for PlayStation or whatever, but financially I think it probably would have been smarter to just make another Evil Within. But I can understand where if you're creative, you get tired of working on the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
so
I can
I
also
get why
see, like,
they did it. But
I can also see, like, this game does look cool. Like, it makes good visual impression. Like, if I can see wanting to make something a little flashier.
There will be good TV commercials for this that'll catch people's eye.
You think they'll do TV commercials for this?
Probably not. Probably not. Yep. So there you go. Ghostwire Tokyo. I mean, I'll say this. I was surprised at what the game ended up being, because the trailers that they had put out before, like, it was really hard to glean what the game was going to be at all from that stuff, other than, okay, there's probably first-person magic casting. But otherwise, it was kind of a blank slate. So I'm pleasantly surprised with what it ended up being, but I still think it's going to struggle to have any mainstream appeal. So we'll see what happens. But again, that's coming out on March 25th. And where the PlayStation stuff just keeps rolling. PlayStation is starting to dominate 2022 already. Next, we're going to talk about Gran Turismo 7, which also had a gigantic presentation this week. It actually had a state of play. I think the Ghostwire Tokyo was like a showcase or whatever.
Yeah, that was some kind of one. I didn't even know the Ghostwire thing happened until today.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo was pretty well publicized.
Yep. Gran Turismo 7 had a legit state of play. It was like 30 minutes long, just loaded with information. Matt, what would it take for you to be reinvigorated in Gran Turismo?
Oh, I can't even imagine what that would be. Like, I'm going to play it, but, like, to be excited about Gran Turismo again? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I'm not even particularly excited about Forza Motorsport 8 or whatever it's going to be,
I struggle to get
excited.
excited
I feel like I've seen
sims.
what I can see from, like, kind of straight-laced car sims, and I don't know what else I need to play in that realm,
Well, one thing that Gran Turismo 7 is doing is starting... So it's not the leader anymore, Matt.
No,
Instead of other games imitating Gran Turismo is starting to imitate other games.
And I feel like that partly comes from the fact that they never come out anymore.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Forza's been able to iterate as much as it has with its regular schedule has been an advantage.
Every 2 years, coming out with a game, it helps. So, like, some of the stuff that they're doing is, like, there are, like, when you first start the game, there's this kind of cool, fun, like, race that you start where, like, the music is playing, and, like, there's, like, these modes in the game where you play along to the music, and, like, as a certain number of beats roll up, you get, like, score multipliers. Like, you can see them trying to have a more fun, exciting sort of presentation around the actual racing in Gran Turismo this time.
Yeah, I just hope it's kind of... There's an element of, like, how do you do fellow kids with Gran Turismo tries to do that sometimes, and I wonder how successful that'll be.
Yeah.
One of Forza's strengths, especially early on when they were, the underdog against Gran Turismo, was that Forza really got across kind of the love of cars and the car enthusiast attitude and the tone, especially bringing in the Top Gear guys and kind of, like, focusing on the history of the cars and kind of all that stuff. And, like, Gran Turismo was just sort of the sterile sort of, like, Gran Turismo was the guy who collects cars, puts them in a giant glass garage and never drives them. And Forza was the guy who, like, collects cars, has all his friends take one and they all drive out to, like, the motorcycle club, like, bar, on the weekend. Like, it was two very different approaches to the same idea.
Well, Yamauchi, the head of Polyphony, who's been making this game since the beginning, his mission statement, and I'll just read it to you. GT7's purpose... or GT7 was produced to celebrate the idea of car culture, can't read today, in the modern day and inspire people to want to be a part of it, whether you are interested in racing, scapes, and photography, livery design, tuning, or collecting cars. It's the same thing.
Yeah. It's
exactly the same thing it's always been. It's like you read that, I'm like, that's what it's always been. Mm-hmm. You haven't changed anything for that. Now, I was talking earlier about that music mode. It's called Music Rally. On the surface,
they went to a cafe. See, like they're trying to do that tone.
Well, see, that's the big new feature from this, the Gran Turismo Cafe. It's really just a launch point for doing all the other crap in the game.
Yeah, it's just a prettier menu, which, to
Pretty
be fair,
much.
they needed. The menus on Gran Turismo used to be a big open white space.
Well, now they do have like that Super Mario like world map thing now, where they show like a piece of land with these little icons that you can go to. That's kind of the other main navigation point for the game.
I mean, any kind of personality they can inject into this series is going to help.
People.
Yeah. Yeah, like
I mean, honestly, it makes a huge difference if you just put people in stuff. And like you play Gran Turismo, you hardly ever see any people.
No, there's like you get the impression the cars are driving themselves.
Right.
It's like
it's
some
like
kind of
ghost.
weird, it's like some kind of weird post-apocalyptic realistic take on Pixar's Cars.
Or there's a robot driving
them.
Yeah. Music Rally, which I was talking about earlier. On the surface, it's like an arcade-style race where you enjoy like up-tempo tunes while you're trying to reach checkpoints. But this is also a way to experience GT's driving gameplay and an opportunity to set your steering and pedal operation type and driving assist, stuff like that. The world map, as I just mentioned, it's the home base. And they call it a resort-themed world of Gran Turismo 7. Yeah.
Okay.
When you first start the game, the first task is to complete is to use some in-game credits to purchase the first car or purchase a used car of your choice at the Gran Turismo Cafe. So the cafe is where you actually go to buy the cars.
Right. I remember that in the old the PS1 games where like they tried to simulate that where like you couldn't afford new cars in the original Gran Turismo. You were stuck with like used Hondas early on, like fighting your way up.
Well, it's happened again here apparently. Also, the Gran Turismo Cafe offers you menu books of activities to complete for new cars and other game progression goodies. The first menu book request is to acquire 3 Japanese compact cars, one that you get when you purchased earlier. So that's one of them. But then you have to win the other 2 from specific races called out in the menu book. So the menu book is like telling you want to unlock this, you need these cars, and this is how you do it. It just seems like maybe it's overcomplicating things a little bit.
I can see like that in the actual game. It's gonna be like, what? I'm just gonna hit X until I get to
a race and then win the race. Yeah. What else? You can venture out into those courses in the World Circuit area of the map, fulfill the placement requirements, and the new cars are yours. There is a license center, obviously one of the most popular features of Gran Turismo in the past, featuring the crazy driving tests that they've always required that you do.
Only driver was more annoying.
Yep, but they have tweaked it this time. Attaining the initial B license is a lot easier than it was before.
Right. God, the license tests in those original Gran Turismo is just
brutal.
Like, I don't think I ever got past B.
You have to perfect them. You have to do it perfect. Yeah, I agree. But so they've made the B license a lot easier. So novice players can get a little deeper in the game than they have in the past. But I will say this, it does teach you to get better at the game in general. Those license tests, but they force you to
they've
really
gotten better.
dig in.
Like over in the early PS1 days, like those license tests were like you needed a license test to take the license test.
Right.
Like, can you teach me what you want me to do here? Like, it's like the expectations were a little strong for a dual sense one, or what was that? A dual analog. One
I don't think it even had a name, did it?
Yeah, the original was the dual analog.
Is that what it was called?
And then it became the dual shock.
Yeah.
When they added the rumble. I had the dual analog. I had longer.
What was the PlayStation controller called when it finally got its first analog stick?
They
started with 2, didn't they?
They started with 2. Yeah. That was the dual analog,
okay.
And that came out with Colony Wars of all things. And I remember one of the big things you were supposed to use the right analog stick for was gas and brake on Gran Turismo. Before they had analog triggers.
Oh,
so it was like that was
so
how
you can
control
just ease down on the gas and the brake. Interesting. That actually was a good idea.
I think the triggers are better now, but they didn't have anything like that then.
Yeah, back then.
That was the best you could do.
Good use of it. The cafe menu will also direct you to the newly opened tuning shop. The tuning in this looks insane. It always has been. Do you mess with this stuff at all in any driving game?
No,
I do not.
I mean, I don't know enough about it. Sometimes it's obvious. It's like, okay, I'm going to change the torque here. I'm going to change the camber here. It's like basic stuff, but I don't know anything about advanced tuning things. I always appreciate when a game just like Forza, where it's just like, oh, you need a car that has performance of this level? Click. Pay this many credits. Done. Like that's and leave it manual for people who want to do that. But let me hire a mechanic and get through it.
Yeah,
right?
I hardly ever mess with that stuff. I feel like if I can't complete the track or the race with the car, I just get it for a car. Like,
yeah,
I don't go into my car menu and like screw around with it trying to get an extra 3 horsepower.
But like traditional Gran Turismo, you can't do that because you can't afford another car.
Right.
You know,
you have to master it with the car you got.
It's not like Forza where they're just like throwing Ferraris at you because you want a fucking roulette wheel spin.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yep. And they do change how part unlocks work. As you acquire new cars, you build up your collector level. Hitting level 4 unlocks the club sports category in the tuning shop. So you basically level up, and that unlocks new parts for you in the tuning shop. There's another new thing called Brand Central, where you can purchase brand new cars from over 50 manufacturers and tuners. There are over 400 cars in this game at launch. There are 30, so for tracks, there's 97 total tracks set in 34 different locations, so 3 variations roughly for each location. Then there's GT Auto, where you can dress up your cars and perform maintenance. There's a livery editor. There's scapes, the scapes part of this. Do you remember what the scapes are, Matt?
Is that like some like photo taking thing? It's like 3,000 photo locations.
The photo mode in this is insane. So in the last one, GT Sport,
it never even occurs to me to do that.
I know.
In these games,
well,
unless like Forza makes you do it for quests and stuff.
Which GT was it where we went to E3 and the whole thing was about the photo mode?
Yeah, the whole demo was just photos.
And you had your car, you go and do the demo, and then they give you a Polaroid of your car when you walked out of the booth.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then,
I want to say that was 5. I want to say that was 6.
I think
5 or 6.
I think it goes back 5. I think it was.
Yeah. That sounds like PS3 era stupid.
Exactly.
I think that was it would have been 5. Or maybe one of the interim ones.
Yeah.
You know, one of those weird fake ass ones.
A-Spec or whatever.
Yeah.
And then so they launched the photo mode, which was impressive, I'll admit it, at the time.
Oh, sure.
Because photo modes weren't even really a thing in games
Yeah, but
then.
it's sort of a thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that once when you tell me to do it for the tutorial, and then I'm never going to think about it again.
Right. And then they went crazy on it and did the scapes, which is like, hey, you have this car, put it in front of this backdrop, and then snap the photo of it. And that's what the scapes are. And they have just gone way above and beyond on the scapes in this. It's like a huge part of the game, which I find very interesting and a little weird. And then there are race photos and more. It launches March 4th for PS4 and PS5, so it's only a couple weeks away. And this is really kind of the first crazy blowout we got direct from Sony for the game. We've obviously had a handful of trailers during its marketing and promotional period.
So maybe the Ghostwire late reveal isn't that weird?
Maybe.
For Sony? I don't...
Maybe that's just the way they're doing stuff now.
I guess. Or maybe they're doing that because, like, you don't do it until you're sure.
Yeah,
you know?
Maybe. I mean, it's working for them.
Yeah.
Regardless.
You're not going to... Gran Turismo's not going to bomb.
Yeah.
Anything, so.
I think it's going to do very well.
I would think so.
I mean...
There's nothing else like it on PlayStation.
I mean, it's also a PS4 and PS5 game.
Yeah.
And I'll
so
say
you got all the fans that like it already, but then like if you want a top-level driving game on PS5, this is your option.
This is it.
Like, this is it.
Yeah. And
there's
it does
no Drive
look
Club,
damn
kids.
good. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like there's any damage still, though.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, who knows? I mean, I thought there was damage now.
I thought
things.
there was one,
in the last one
a
or
couple
something.
entries that did have
Yeah.
some damage, but this one doesn't appear to have any.
You're not showing it off if there is.
Yeah, if there is. But here you're seeing all the tuning and all the parts, and it's just insane. Look at this. That's for a VW bug, dude. Do you need that? Look at that.
I'm sure you do if you know what any of that means. I don't.
Guess. I mean, a Volkswagen Bug doesn't have like 120 horsepower or like 100 horsepower.
But I mean, the laws of physics still apply to it, so I guess you can tune it into hell. Or I mean, people do crazy things.
They do.
Even those like
I've even seen bugs with like wheelie bars and stuff.
Yeah.
Where people put turbos in them. It's bonkers. Are you any more excited for this now that we've learned pretty much everything about it?
no.
Me either. Like there's nothing that you can hang your hat on and be like, that's going to change my impression of this game. And look, maybe you don't want to change it because this series has been so popular for years and years. I can understand why you'd be a little reluctant to change
Yeah,
things.
certainly the argument can be made that there's no reason to change anything because it's working just fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if GT Sport... I mean, the sales of this franchise have definitely waned over the years.
Yeah.
They're not like they used to be, where they would literally sell like 14 to 20 million units.
But I think part of that is just changing taste, though. Like,
Yeah.
you know, driving games used to be how you measured a system, you know, like checking the pop in and checking the draw in and checking the texture. You know, like they used to be like, you know, Cruising USA. It was like, oh my God, it was a disaster that it was bad on N64 or whatever. Now imagine people caring so much about Cruising USA or something equivalent today that there were like months-long arguments on the internet about it. Like Usenet was just there was just endless Cruising USA arguments about things like that. people would just go on and on and on about Gran Turismo this and whether this the pop in here is better than this and this game it doesn't match the arcade perfectly. Like driving games were a big hot topic and no one really talks about them now.
No, because none of them have broken the mold in forever.
No, and there's a point where like
this genre has really
this genre really hit a diminishing returns level when graphics got good enough to sort of like semi-perfect
photorealistic cars.
You know, like yeah. Once you hit a point where once you can no longer see whether the helmet is shinier or not, what are you even comparing in Madden? You know, so it's like sort of like these. And, you know, at this point, the Forza Gran Turismo rivalry, quote unquote, is really more like what kind of flavor you prefer. Yeah. Like if you prefer a more straightforward kind of, you know, I would describe it as sterile, but if you don't want kind of the you know, not that Forza really outside of Horizon really has the bro culture to it in the mainline series, but it has more of a, you know, even with the Top Gear guys, it has a personality, had a snark to it. It had, you know.
It has a little plot, like...
And I can see, like, I don't agree with that. It's not how I feel about it, but, like, I could see how someone who doesn't want to be told how to enjoy cars would like the more neutral presentation of Gran Turismo. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't do it for me, though.
Me either. It just seems boring, and it's hard for me to get excited about it. Because the other thing, too, is that Gran Turismo used to have a huge advantage over everything else. It was the best-looking, most realistic playing driving game in the world.
Yeah, and like, nobody else was even trying to do that. Like, Polyphony was on a completely different... not even level. They're on a completely different philosophy of how to make these games.
And they're not the only game in town anymore.
Yeah.
There's competition now, and I've honestly enjoyed the competition more over the last 10 years. So
for sure.
I've definitely fallen off with this franchise over time, but this looks pretty damn good, Matt. Like,
it does. Like
if you're a Gran Turismo fan, I think you're going to be really happy with this game.
I mean, there's a lot of like, Gran Turismo, but more so kind of thing. You know, like, and that's not a bad thing if that's what you want.
I also think this game's going to stick around for a long time.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, Sony does have a history of sort of shortchanging their driving games if they don't come out of the gate exactly how they want them to.
Yeah.
Drive Club, anybody?
Yeah. But MotorStorm, lots of them.
MotorStorm, yeah. But like, you know, Gran Turismo tends to get basically the Team Eco treatment, right? Like Polyphony gets forever to make these things.
As long as it wants. Yeah. So that's Gran Turismo 7. Again, it's coming to PS4 and PS5, and it's coming in just a couple weeks on March 4th. Mm-hmm. Coming up real fast.
Do you think this will come to PC?
Eventually, I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it may be a little longer than usual because I think they're going to support this with a lot of DLC, particularly like tracks, like 34 locations, 90 tracks.
I think I could see them expanding to like other continents.
Yeah,
because it looks like they got like Japan and Europe and America. Mm-hmm. I would definitely like to see some Australia stuff. I like you know there's other places in the world they could take it as like, kind of little mini expansion things.
So I think this will be a safe purchase. I think the game's quality is going to be good. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it if you like Gran Turismo, and I think they're going to offer you a lot of post-launch support. So if you're a Gran Turismo fan, you probably should put this one on your list and get ready to buck up and pay your money in a couple weeks because I think it's going to be a good Gran Turismo. So if you like Gran Turismo, I think you'll be happy with it.
Or just keep playing Elden Ring.
Yeah. I mean...
Because the one thing Gran Turismo doesn't have is a horse that can jump up a cliff.
I'd love to see the Venn diagram of the Gran Turismo and Elden Ring fans. Where is the overlap there?
Probably more than we think, but not enough to really matter.
That's a good way to put it, I think. So there you go. That's Gran Turismo 7. Next up, we're going to talk about, and again, I really wish that I had taps here on the TriCaster to play it, because yet another prominent gaming product has essentially died, and that is Stadia.
Called it.
Yeah.
Actually, a little long. I think I said 2 years.
Yeah.
When it was coming out. It was a little more than 2 years.
Has it made it more than 2 years?
I thought so. I thought the
Time
like the initial thing. I thought the initial thing started in November 2020, or was it 2019?
That sounds about right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2019.
Yeah, like...
Am I wrong?
I can always look at our B-roll.
Yeah.
And know how old
the date on the B-roll,
is. Oh, unfortunately, here in the TriCaster, it doesn't provide the date. It has everything else, but not the date for the clip, unfortunately.
Because it never really launched properly, did it?
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, November 19th, 2019 in select countries. And then April 8th, 2020, they launched the no-cost base service.
So basically... early 2020, essentially. 2 years.
2 years. I called it. I said 2 years.
You nailed it, honestly.
That's how long Google lets something that isn't a runaway success live until they kill it.
I will say this. Someone on the site tried to give us credit for calling it. And they were like, Shane and Matt called this. They said it wasn't going to last more than, not very long or whatever. And then, of course, the first reply was, everybody knew that.
Yeah. Oh, not everybody. You read some of those articles at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently the revolution was upon us.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, then later on in the story, someone was like, I thought it was going to be good.
Yeah.
Like,
I appreciate the admissions of some people. Like,
yeah.
Also, like, it's not over. Oh, yeah, they're still going to use it for, like,
Yeah.
the service is continuing, but they are, like, I think the internal talk was that it was, like, 25% of it is focused on video games now. It's going to move to another kind of idea.
Yeah, so they've been...
Because the tech is still useful for stuff. It's just not going to work for gaming.
They've already worked out some deals. So they worked out a deal with Capcom, and they are going to work with them to stream games in web browsers for Capcom games. They had worked with AT&T to get a version of like Batman Arkham Knight streaming for their mobile subscribers or whatever. They had been working on a deal with Bungie. Obviously now that's not going to work because Bungie was purchased by PlayStation, so that deal's off the table. But basically they're turning Google Stadia into a brand new product that they've already renamed Google Stream, that they're trying to sell.
Which would have been a better name to begin with.
It probably would have been, absolutely. That they're trying to sell to third-party hardware manufacturers. I mean, they're even talking to, like, Tesla to, like, get games that can stream through 5G into, like, Tesla cars. So they are going behind the scenes and not worried so much about creating stuff that consumers care about. Now, to be fair, Stadia did respond to all these stories, and it didn't deny any of it. But it did say that in 2022, they are going to add, or it is going to add, another 100 games to the Stadia library. And again,
how many of those are also on the Amico?
Right. As you had said earlier, though, like, it doesn't really matter.
No.
It's like adding
Can
another.
you imagine spending money on a game on this thing?
No. And that actually, right now, people, if you take anything away from this topic on today's GameFace, it's that you should not buy any games on Stadia.
No.
Do not do it.
This thing can go away, and that Assassin's Creed copy's gone.
It could go away tomorrow.
Yeah.
Literally, we don't know what day they're going to pull the plug on this.
All the weird fear and doom that people whip up about digital purchases actually is true about this.
Here it is. The people scared that, like, if they don't buy physical, their stuff's going to go away.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah, this is actually where it will happen. Also, I love the pop-in jumping in the corner of that screen there. That was a great thing to demo for us there, guys.
It's just crazy watching all this now because it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, Phil, what will you ruin next?
And look at how committed they are to it. It's just crazy.
I love that the one of the ways they knew that this was a problem is they moved Phil Harrison under a different person.
Right.
Like, he's no longer in charge of this thing. He now answers to someone else who's in charge of it.
Who is probably the head of enterprise or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah.
All Stadia is going to become now.
So I would look for him to move to a new thing soon.
Yeah,
because he's not running the show anymore, and that's not what he likes.
I hate to say this, but something else for him to ruin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his track record's not great. But, I mean, Stadia is essentially going to become a bunch of sales and marketing people who are trying to sell the technology to other companies in some way, shape, or form.
It's going to be a game as a service without a game.
Pretty much. It's just going to be a service. That's all it's really going to be.
Like, are they going to, like, push it as, like, a Zoom equivalent or something? Like, what is it going to be?
I just think that they're going to try to sign those kind of B2B deals with game publishers or other companies that just want to have some weird game streaming thing as a part of whatever plan they have going.
Another logo on the coming to
pretty
whatever
much
list.
Yeah.
So it's basically going to be a zombie.
Yes. It's still alive and walking around, but it's not functional.
Yeah. And you do not want it to bite you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know when this is all going to happen.
You certainly shouldn't give it any money.
Yeah.
Don't give zombies money, kids.
Yeah.
They don't have any use for it.
Well, when Stadia first launched, like we mentioned over and over again, that Google is guilty of bailing on its products early. You can go on and on. Google Glass, Google Plus, like all of it.
Google Wave, Google, and tons of. You go get that Google
Pay,
that Google Graveyard site. There's stuff I've never even heard of on that.
Stuff that just never even was in the public eye that they've canned. So it's not a shock that Google's bailing on this early.
Especially because at least Google Glass was like a good idea to some degree. Like you look at Google Glass and you're like, yeah, I get it.
That's HoloLens, or what HoloLens is going to become.
What HoloLens ends up being,
Yeah.
And also, like, when you got like people, starting, like Jeremy Hoffman had a Google Glass, and he'd show people, and he used to call it the Google Glass smile, where like once you do the first thing with it and you just have this stupid grin on your face because it's like this weird future tech, and like, but they never really went beyond that. Like there was a delight element to that tech, but like it just didn't do what they internally thought it was going to do or wanted it to do, and it just sort of went away. Instead of continuing to work and iterate on it, it just sort of quietly went away.
Well,
and that's sort of what Google does. And then you got the other options, which is like Google Wave, which to this day I still don't know what the hell that was.
Yeah,
they pushed that like crazy as like a new business tool, and I still don't know what it is.
Yeah. Here's the thing, when you cancel your first party development a year into your plan, that was it. What Google has discovered, and what a lot of us already know, is that you need a killer app. Mm-hmm. You need something. You need the milkshake to bring all the boys to the yard. Seriously, there's got to be something that people can talk about around your platform. There was nothing.
No. I mean, Star Citizen's coming up on 10 years now of taking millions of dollars for pictures of spaceships.
Fair enough.
But there's something to talk about there.
Yeah.
The end goal of Star Citizen is an exciting idea.
It is.
The end goal of Google Stadia is why.
Yeah. I mean, the only unique selling proposition it had is that you could play, and I use that term loosely, the biggest games that were coming out without buying a console.
Right. But
that's not a killer app.
No, especially because if you have the equipment to display the games of that in that quality, you can buy a console.
Right.
Like it's like I continually did not understand who this was for. It was for this person who had the absolute cutting edge high-end audio video equipment and like gigabit internet
console.
But wouldn't buy a PS5. Like who is that?
Yep. It's funny, too, watching this presentation, all the people in the crowd applauding. Brilliant. Well, great idea.
A bunch of those people are paid to be there.
Well, they're Google employees, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. It's probably on campus. I forget you could be places back in the old days.
Yeah. So 2 years this ended up lasting, Matt.
Mm-hmm. The future is 8K, is it? Really?
They never made it there. No. Did they ever even stream in 4K?
I don't know.
Did that ever happen?
If it did, it happened long after I stopped paying attention.
I think it happened when it finally went public, like that mid-year.
But early on, it was like, no, you get 1080p if you're lucky.
You're gonna like
it. That's
yeah. I can't say I'm going to miss it too much. It was kind of helpful in some ways, like when Vincent would work on stuff for us, like instead of having him to buy a new console or whatever, like we could just have him subscribe to Stadia for a month or whatever. Like there are cases for its use. It's just not a mass market product. It's just not.
What a specific use case.
Exactly. I mean, that's my point. Like most people would get no use out of it. So RIP Stadia. How much longer do you think it'll be till they actually announce that?
I don't know. I mean,
or will they ever? Do you think they'll just let it languish along?
I mean, look, like I talk about how Google Glass is gone, but Google Glass technically still exists. Like, they don't do anything notable with it. Like, you only hear about it if like you already have one, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can see it just becoming that, like just this thing that sort of languishes in the background and never gets mentioned anymore. I think the litmus test on that is when you see Phil Harrison move to a new project. That's when Stadia is over.
That'll be the canary in the coal mine.
Pretty much. Like, well, because I mean, partly because like, he has to move on and fail to launch something else, but also like he doesn't have to sit around and sit on top of a failing product like that. He has enough.
Those Google checks are pretty big.
They are, but he also has enough cachet to move on to a new project. And
you think he still does? I'm really wondering about him.
I don't know Phil Harrison at all, but I do get the impression that he gets bored easily.
Yeah. He jumps around a lot.
He likes to launch stuff. He doesn't stick around too long afterwards, and I don't think that's necessarily related all the time to
his
fact
performance.
That he's not always ejecting.
Yeah.
Because the thing is nosediving into the ground. Sometimes, I think some people just, especially in the executive space.
He's no Tommy Tallarico.
No. Some people, especially in the executive space, just like to develop things and build something and launch something, and then they move on to the next thing. There are starters and there are closers.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that strikes me watching this
there are non-starters.
Yeah. One thing that strikes me watching this now is I would imagine there was at least 2 years of work that went into all the stuff leading up to this presentation.
Oh, yeah.
And then it only lasted 2 years.
Yeah. Took them longer to make it than for it to... I mean, that's the story of failure.
That's crazy.
Like my main takeaway from Stadia is just how mad about how much of Jade Raymond's time they wasted.
We're going to talk about that here in just a second, actually. But yeah. Well, it was only a year.
Yeah, I guess so.
They hired her, and 12 months later, they canned her entire division. But I do think if Stadia had stayed the course and actually created some exclusive first-party content and let Jade Raymond actually make a game and wait and see what the response to that is before you pull the plug on your first-party development, it might have had a chance.
Oh, sure. But, I mean, part of the constant stories we get from people who were working on this thing and from people working at Amazon's game studio thing is that neither of those companies knew how game development works.
Yeah.
They were expecting it to be like app development, or they were expecting it to be
they try to
instantaneous
apply
or something.
their business practices that work in other areas onto game development.
And it doesn't make any sense. And that never worked. And I've seen the opposite too. I've done a lot of consulting things and a lot of like little odd job things around. And I was involved in this thing once where it was an app company that didn't really know games. So games, yeah, but like mobile stuff. And they wanted to do video stuff, but they didn't understand that video stuff doesn't work the way software development works.
Yep.
And they wanted to develop a show and shoot the show and then take notes on the show and then reshoot the show with the notes incorporated. I'm like, that's going to cost the same amount again. You know that? And they're like, why would it cost the same amount? We've already made the show.
God.
And I'm like, because you have to put everyone in front. You have to do it again. You have to literally. This isn't code. You can't just remove a person from the show and put them in, and the rest of it stays the same. It was bizarre. There are people in the tech space that do not understand how the world works. Yeah. And that should tell you. I mean, look, man.
People in positions of
You've
power.
seen Elon Musk's Boring Company, where it's that's something a 10-year-old would come up with.
Right.
That's not going to survive contact with reality.
Yeah.
What are you talking? You just dig a hole through the whole thing and run cars through it like a Hot Wheels track. That's not. That doesn't. No, that's not how anything works. But there's a lot of that mentality up in that tech sector.
Hubris. They think because they've been successful doing one thing that they know how to do everything.
Dunning-Kruger syndrome. You think you know a little bit, but you don't know enough to know you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And you get run into that a lot. So that is sort of, I think, I'm sure Stadia was something like that, because the more and more you dig into it, it sounds like Phil Harrison's the only person in calling any shots that knew anything about how the game industry worked.
Well, someone had made some interesting comments about Phil here in our chat, and he says the PS3 took off once Phil left.
That's true. Yeah.
That is true.
After they stopped lying to the press about the MotorStorm footage.
Lying to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't having it. I called his ass out right on
and the Killzone footage.
Camera.
That all turned out to be fake.
It did.
All of it was wrong.
And I called him out right to his face on camera at DICE. Or was it DICE or GDC? I don't even remember
I think
anymore.
It was GDC.
Yeah.
Because that was where we did the interview where he started yelling at Adam.
Yeah. Shane, show your milkshakes. I don't even know what that actually means. I just know that there's a song called...
It's a dance.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a dance which involves shaking your boobs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pretty sure.
Oh, I do know the song.
Milkshake. But really, she does the dance so well that all the boys come see her do it in the
yard. That makes perfect sense.
We will be explicating more pop songs.
No, we won't.
Going forward.
Cinetyke says, feels like in the U.S., if you can afford good internet, you can also afford a console. Probably. Sleepy Droid said PS3 went better after Phil left. He's right. Yeah. It did go better.
Person who's in charge, it matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Vincent says, why did Google and Amazon fail, but Sony and Microsoft succeed? Glowingly so in the former case.
I think in the case of Sony, I think it's partly because there was a vacuum to fill. The PlayStation was not a solution in search of a problem. The PlayStation was saw an opportunity in a power vacuum and took it when Sega fell. Sony saw weakness with Sega and knew they could take the road there, and they did. Microsoft, I think, had the advantage of they had infinite resources, essentially, and on top of that, the industry was simpler then. It was easier to get attention when the Xbox launched.
It's true.
So I think that's what happened there. Also, Sony and Microsoft are just more competent companies. Google does one thing and does it well, at least, especially if you consider that one thing to be making Bing irrelevant. But there's not a lot of versatility in their hiring. I don't think they have a lot of people with the lateral thinking required to jump from industry to industry. They have lateral thinking in terms of problem solving inside their own wheelhouse, but it seems like every time they try to step out of it, they have problems. And I'm not sure what the solution to that would be. It's probably a corporate culture problem.
Yep.
And I think Amazon has a similar problem. I think Facebook is having a lot of that problem right now. Facebook has lost, what, third of its value or something? Quarter of its value in the last week?
Quarter of its value, yeah, in the last week.
Yeah, like none of these companies are invincible.
No.
Never.
No.
Never.
Look at Spotify.
Yeah,
it's been getting beat up, man.
Look at
it's lost billions of valuation.
There was a time
in like a week.
There was a time that no one could have believed that Gran Turismo would not be the dominant driving game forever.
Right.
The idea that anyone could try to challenge Gran Turismo was absurd.
Well, there was a time that no one would ever dream that Nintendo wouldn't be the dominant console company.
And what happens in all those situations?
Someone screws up majorly.
Someone screws up. Yes. They defeat themselves.
Yeah.
They are always their own worst enemy, and someone sees an opportunity, just like Sony did when Sega stumbled with the Sega CD.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Sony said, we've been working with Nintendo. They're being dicks, and we can do this better.
And they did. Right. Yep. Gunzilla says, if Stadia was more like Netflix, it would have been awesome.
Yeah. That's kind of what PlayStation Now and Game Pass are, though.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's true.
Deadly Virus Evo says, Phil Harrison was also a part of the Xbox One launch. Look how that turned out. I was not aware of that.
Was he? I don't remember that.
I don't remember that at all, actually.
I mean, it would track.
I mean, yeah. We're not saying that it doesn't make sense. I just don't remember that at all. Anything else on Stadia? No. I think everyone's just saying, like, adios amigo. No loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, I don't think anyone...
I mean, I don't want anyone to lose their job.
I don't think there were any
sound like
Stadia fanboys. I don't think any of those
not a lot.
were developed throughout the course of its lifespan. So anyway, it seems like it's only a matter of time until they announce the official demise of the consumer-facing version of Google Stadia. But I do think
Phil Harrison was
he?
a corporate executive at Microsoft when Xbox One launched.
I thought he was at Atari then for some reason.
Nah, he left.
Good call though.
Yeah, he left. When is he left? Phil Harrison has left Microsoft April 27th, 2015. So I don't think he was around. He was around for that.
How does he keep failing up? Some people just do. They just go from project to project that doesn't work out.
I don't know if going from PlayStation to Xbox to Google is up.
Well, depends on if you're talking about paychecks or prestige.
I'm sure he's getting paid just fine.
He got paid very fine at Google, I'm sure. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the insanity that's been going down in PlayStation land this entire week. Obviously, in last week's episode, the big topic was PlayStation buying Bungie. And when we had that discussion last week, a lot of the details still weren't out there. Most of them were, but not all of them. And I had brought up a point. One of the big points that we discussed on the show last week was, okay, what are you getting with that money that you're spending on Bungie? And Matt was like, you're getting the talent, you're getting the expertise. And then I said, well, you can always hire those people away. And we never really came to a conclusion. Well, then, like a couple days after we recorded the show, Sony made it very obvious what its plans were, because it announced that of the purchase price of Bungie, nearly 1/3 of it, $1.2 billion of that sale price, is being dedicated to retaining Bungie employees. So Sony was way out ahead of it. They saw what I saw, which was like, well, we're just buying a name in Destiny, so we need to guarantee that we can keep what matters, which is what Matt said, the people there. And so very smartly, Sony set aside a third. So now the acquisition makes more sense too now, Matt, because the acquisition of Bungie is actually like $2 billion now.
Right. But then they had another $1 billion left over to retain all the people they want because they wanted the expertise.
Yep. And the way they're setting it up is like the employees at Bungie have to stay there. So some of them will get a bonus like right away, but then like the bigger bonus is a carrot dangling on the
you want that down the road when it
where you have to stay for 3 years to get that big bonus. So Sony ended up doing it smartly. I mean, and also now the purchase price doesn't seem quite as egregious.
Like I said before, I think that will pay out, maybe not monetarily, but I think it will pay dividends kind of company-wide going forward. I think they will get their money's worth. I don't know if they'll make their money back in
time. Probably.
Over time it'll be there. But like this was that's good. This was a long-term, like far-sighted investment. Like this is like the people who greenlit this deal at Sony are thinking 10, 15 years down the road, and that's good. Like you need that.
that dovetails nicely into another thing that Sony announced this week, which is that it plans to have 10 live service games available before March 2026.
Which is also what I said they were probably.
That is insane.
That's a lot. Like that. Like those better all be very different things.
Do you want 10
No.
in like?
I mean, I don't.
4 years?
I mean, I guess you
not
could,
even 4 years.
I guess you could call like Gran Turismo a game as a service technically, if you want to call
how
it.
How they
that.
handle it eventually, I guess maybe. But
Gas.
GT
It's a
Sport
gas
was,
game.
Yeah. GT Sport was pretty much a game as a service, though.
Yeah. So it depends like what they're counting as a game as a service. Like they don't all have to be a Destiny like RPG epic, raid thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot.
Let's try to figure out what those 10 games are, Matt.
Oh.
First of all, there's Jade Raymond's new game, which was also basically announced this week. She did an interview with like a French publication, which I found to be weird. But she shared.
Doesn't she speak French? Isn't she?
Well, she was French Canadian.
Yeah. So,
It's still weird. I mean, she doesn't work for Ubi anymore, so.
Yeah, she's still French Canadian.
I guess. But anyway, they kind of explained the first details about her new game. It is a live service game that promotes inclusion and caring in
service
in a persistent and evolving world. What does that mean?
Nothing. It means nothing. That's what it means.
Apparently, she had 3 concepts that she pitched to Sony, PlayStation, and this is the one that they decided on.
All right.
So, again, a live service game that promotes inclusion and caring in a persistent and evolving world.
I mean, look, it's Jade Raymond. I'm in. I don't care. Like, I just want to play another Jade Raymond game before I die. How about that?
So that's one. The second one is Bungie's new game Matter, which we've known about for a while. That's obviously now going to fall under the new ownership. The Last of Us Factions.
Yeah.
Which is a multiplayer spin on...
Which maybe explains a little bit about why it got delayed so long.
Yeah.
If they decided to instead make it sort of part of this initiative.
And I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the first ones.
I would think this will be the first one.
Yeah. That comes in.
Unless they're counting Gran Turismo.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing footage of the old Last of Us multiplayer stuff now. But I'd imagine it's not going to be all that different.
No, I don't think you're breaking the mold on this one too much.
Probably going to be very similar. Another one, my guess would be Twisted Metal.
Ooh,
I'm guessing they
bet.
turn that into a game as a service.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any other way to do that, really. It's,
to make people care, because I wouldn't pay for a Twisted Metal game. That's for sure.
Neither would I. I mean, some of these are not necessarily going to be free. Some of these are maybe like Destiny, like buy it and play it, and then add, pay more money for cosmetic stuff.
How many do you need?
Apparently 10. I don't know.
That's crazy, though. And I mean, I'll say this so far.
I mean, I'm sure they don't expect all 10 of them to last.
Yeah.
Like, you're throwing stuff at the wall.
Assuming some of it won't stick, I guess.
Like Twisted Metal.
Yeah. Firewalk Studios, founded in 2018. It's made up of like former like games as a service developers. I know they're working on something. Studio was formed in 2018. It's 4 years later. Like, they should have something ready soon.
Yeah.
PlayStation London already announced that it has a game as a service in development. A studio called Deviation Games has said it's working on a game as a service for PlayStation.
I would be a little surprised if they didn't do like a Killzone game, like not by Guerrilla, but like that seems like an IP you'd probably give to have your sort of standard man shoot. If Ubisoft can do it every 5 months with Tom Clancy stuff, I imagine they want some kind of like military thing in there.
Do you think Sony will rope Insomniac into doing some game as a service?
I don't think I think Insomniac's pretty much the boutique single player game.
I would hope so.
You could always add on a third wing there, I guess. I would also wonder if they'd be thinking about reviving SOCOM in some way, because that was a big deal on PS2.
Maybe. I don't know. And then what do you think?
Well, especially with the potential loss of COD going forward, like that, SOCOM caught fire for a little bit there.
It did. What do you think about a Ghost of Tsushima themed game as a service? Do you feel like if you create these live service games around this IP that it cheapens the IP at all?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Not much, unless it's really disastrous. But as long as you're still... I don't care about it cheapening. I just don't want it to replace it. You know what I mean?
I don't think it would ever replace it. Yeah. But you don't think if someone plays a mediocre game as a service that for the Last of Us or for Ghost of Tsushima that it doesn't affect at all when that next game in that series comes out?
I don't think so. It didn't affect Uncharted.
Yeah.
It didn't affect
That's true.
a lot of Assassin's Creeds.
Yeah, although Uncharted's kind of gone now.
Yeah, but more because they closed the book on it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, like, you think it's going to be gone if that movie's a hit? It's going to be big. That's going to be a big deal.
Do you think the movie's going to be a hit?
No.
I don't either. You already bought your tickets, though.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's a group activity. I'm not. It wasn't my choice. It was like, hey, you want to go? Yeah. I'm like, what was it? Like, Henry Rollins has an old thing where he's like, I just go do shit. I just like to go do shit because I like to go. He's like, do you want to go pick apples in Albania and then like be back in L.A. the next day for a gig? Like, yes, because I like to go do stuff. So like, if you like, let's go do this thing, like I will probably go do it, whether it makes sense or not.
How awesome is it, by the way, that Matt Kyle just quoted Henry Rollins?
I love Henry Rollins.
That's awesome.
I met Henry Rollins.
It's funny because I mean Henry Rollins to me, I know him as from the like hardcore
from Black
scene.
Flag and stuff.
Yeah.
See, I know him as a worthless poet.
Right. Yes.
as a spoken word guy.
I knew him for 20 years before anyone else even knew who the hell he was.
Obviously I knew of him and his music career, but what I like him for is I like his writing and I like his spoken word stuff. The Boxed Life is one of the greatest spoken word albums ever recorded, and that got me through a lot of college.
Yeah.
If you've never heard The Boxed Life, go pick that up. Go
his
find
spoken
that.
word stuff's pretty interesting. He doesn't try to do like the sing-songy, poemy stuff.
No, he's not funny. Like he's very funny, but he's not like poetic. He's not.
Yeah.
He's just telling stories about his life.
Yeah.
And some of it's really funny, and some of it's just heartbreaking, and some of it's just interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. He just gets up on stage and talks for like 3 hours.
But he's lived a crazy.
He has done crazy
life.
things. Yeah.
I mean, he's just scratching the surface with that stuff of what he's done.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, he was a hero of mine for a long time. It's been interesting to watch him break into the mainstream because he was the antithesis of the mainstream for 20 years.
I remember the one time I met him was at a book. He did a book signing at in San Francisco at the Independent Press Expo thing. It used to happen next door to the Tech TV office. Remember?
I remember that.
I went there in '98 to see him, and because he just put a new book out, and I thanked him for all the spoken word stuff. He was super nice and he sat there and he talked to me for like 10 minutes about all the spoken word stuff he's working on and what he thought I'd like and all this thing. You should try this other guy who does this, and it's like kind of like what I do, but he's and like really cool, like really good.
Check out his interviews with that guy. Nardawar. Have you seen that guy who does interviews of music artists? He has like an afro.
Yeah.
And he seems really weird and awkward, but somehow he gets
amazing stuff out of him.
He gets amazing stuff out of him. He's very well researched, but he just gets the interview, period.
Yeah.
He talks to the biggest people in music, and his interviews are always off the charts. Check it out if you get a chance. His interview is amazing. What else do we got on PlayStation this week? Again, another busy week for PlayStation. Oh, here's a big story. PlayStation 5 is now falling behind the pace of the PS4.
What?
Yeah.
Which you can't fucking buy it.
Right. Which is obviously just because you can't buy it.
Yeah, it's a shortage of...
But I never would have guessed that would happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of proves that it's not intentional, right?
Yeah.
Like, Sony wouldn't let that happen if they didn't have to.
Yeah, and they lowered their guidance for this year as well. Like, the next fiscal year, they're only planning on, like, 11 million PS5s now. Like,
wow.
They basically
That's
lowered...
a cut.
I know. Well, they had already lowered it the quarter before by 1 million, and then they came to this quarter and they lowered it another 1 million, which means that production is not getting any better for these consoles. So it looks like it's going to continue.
The outside predictions were like early 2023 before any of these shortages ease up, and who knows even then. I'm still we've got ways to go till May, which is when I predicted that someone would have to fight somebody over a can of Mountain Dew.
It may happen. I would probably lean more towards November though.
Maybe.
Because there's other stuff happening in November that could really cause a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it, actually. That's all. That's the big catch-up. Do you think this is the right strategy for PlayStation, Matt, though, to go so... And I understand why, because everyone looks at it like, well, you just make this game, and then you just have this small team that keeps adding to it. It just generates money and money and money. But there's a law of diminishing returns there, right? At a certain point, like...
But I think you're just looking for the one thing that... I think they're throwing stuff at the wall, and whatever was successful will theoretically make up for the stuff that isn't successful in the long run. And the other thing is, like, Sony has the boutique single-player blockbuster 15 million copies sold experience nailed down. Like, they have that on lockdown. This is the only realm they don't have that and Game Pass kind of stuff are really the only places. They're working on that too. This is the only place they have, the area they have that really needs serious improvement. And so it makes sense to me. They're just going to go hard. They're going to throw everything they can at this. They're going to find out what people want, what works by throwing 10 different games as a service at them, and they're going to hope they get a Destiny out of it. basically.
It is pretty crazy to think because they have the studios lined up to do this, to make it happen.
Yeah.
And to accomplish what you mentioned, keep making blockbuster single-player stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is, like, they kind of did this on the down low.
Yeah.
Like, Microsoft's running around saying, we bought these guys, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Microsoft's doing this. And meanwhile, Sony's just moving their pieces.
Yep.
And it's interesting.
Yeah,
like,
and look,
very opposite, like, strategy.
Yep, and Sony has the bandwidth, apparently, to build a competitor to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
It also has the bandwidth, somehow, to launch PlayStation VR 2.
Yeah.
And make sure it has developers lined up for all that.
And it has the war chest to do all this. Like, I mean, they're betting big on this, but I don't see any other option.
No.
You know? Like, otherwise you stagnate.
Yeah.
And as soon as you stagnate, you leave an opening.
Sony, I think, corporate Sony is starting to realize that its bread is buttered by PlayStation.
Yeah, well, and also...
And maybe the better way to invest its money is to invest in PlayStation.
Yeah, I think they realize that, and I think they also... Someone in there has realized, like, oh, Microsoft's down but not out.
Yeah.
Like, there was a period where I think, you know, as they said, arrogant Sony's back.
Mm-hmm.
They thought, you know, Microsoft could not possibly be a threat again.
Yeah,
PS4. And they are again.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like 4 years from now, this is going to be a real fight.
It's going to be interesting.
Like, you're going to have to make you're going to make some choices about what you want to play on which platform. And Sony,
and I think that's part of say and buy them all.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean,
and buy less crappy games, so you're just playing the best exclusives.
I mean, that's what we're gonna say, obviously, but but also I think it ties in with their strategy to put stuff on PC now because they know one of their weaknesses for for a while it was a strength you had to buy a PlayStation to play their games. Now it's kind of a drawback.
It is.
Like it's better for them now. It's been proven, I think, with their releases with Horizon and God of War. It's doing better for them to have them available eventually on PC because then Microsoft doesn't get to hold that side of things over them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Like that's when
the PC being an open platform actually dings Microsoft.
Yeah. This, by the way, this is the revolution. Like this is the shift. Like what you're watching here with Microsoft and Sony kind of positioning themselves opposite each other on what this is going to be. This is the shift in what will determine what the next generation is going to look like. Not Google Stadia.
Yeah.
Not Amazon Lumberyard or whatever. Like this is the move. These are the moves that you're looking at to see what the future is. Like, I'll worry about, having to buy a TV with a PlayStation built into it when Sony announces that.
Yeah.
But they ain't announcing that anytime soon. That is clearly not on their idea list. They are intending to sell hardware for a long time in the future.
Well, I think also, too, I think you're obviously hinting to some of the stuff that Patrick's talked about in the past.
Yeah.
But you're seeing the services that he was counting on to do that fail.
Yes.
Stadia, Amazon, Luna.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no services, then that's never going to happen.
They were always non-starters. They were always going to be non-starters.
Yeah. And it'll be actually...
And Luna,
we're
what
shooting
the hell?
Pachter on Thursday. Maybe one of you guys could drop a question about that in one of the places where you can do that, which is like everywhere.
Can you bring a little candy crow for him to eat?
Don't make me ask it. You guys can go ask it.
What is going on with Luna? I see Luna pop up once in a while, like on marketing things, or like a couple times I've written some marketing things that I had to add in. Luna is one of the platforms thing that something's coming to, and I'm like, really?
It's still a thing.
Still a thing?
Yeah.
Did they launch it? Is it happen? Is there a?
Did I miss
available.
That?
It's available, but did they launch it, or is it just sort of one day it happened?
It's like a soft launch. Yeah. It wasn't like.
Are they going to do like a, hey, Luna?
I don't think so. And again,
No?
I don't know, Matt, that Luna, particularly with Amazon, I don't think Amazon's all that concerned about Luna succeeding.
Doesn't seem like
I think it's just like, hey, look what AWS can do.
Yeah.
It's just like a selling point for Amazon Web Services, which I give money to every month here at Sifted.
That's the other interesting thing about kind of the tech giant, like kind of, dog and pony show and horse race with like even with Facebook. You can never forget that all of it is hosted on Amazon servers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's all on AWS.
Well, Amazon just increased the price of Prime. People freaked out because they looked at their financials and they're like, what do you mean? Your financials, like, you killed it. But if you actually dug into Amazon's financials, they lost money on the retail side of Amazon as far as people buying stuff on Amazon.com and all that. They made up for it and then some with AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, that is their most lucrative thing.
I mean, the whole world is
especially now that they've had to go. I mean, Amazon has gone to great expense and length to make sure shipments still go through in timely manners in ways that a lot of the other shipping companies haven't
been able to. Yeah.
And they, that has cut into their revenue. Not that I think they're not going bankrupt anytime. I don't care.
Yeah.
But like they have been more dependable in that regard. it's interesting that was something they really leaned into, and I don't know if that really paid off for them in the end. Maybe during lockdown, but now it feels just like, okay, everybody kind of gets stuff except for FedEx. FedEx doesn't know what's FedEx returned a couple things I ordered to Florida for no good reason, which I'm just like, could not deliver to address. I'm like, I was here, dude. Ring the bell. What are you doing?
Yeah. Okay, we got to move on. We're running out of time here. We got one more topic left, and we're going to discuss the biggest announcement of the week, which is the biggest announcement that wasn't really an announcement. And Rockstar finally announced, whatever, that Grand Theft Auto 6 is in fact on the way. The biggest non-announcement ever. We all knew this was the case. If you're a regular watcher of GameFace, or if you use Sifted, you've seen probably a dozen stories roll through about GTA 6 on Sifted at this point. We've talked about it a couple different times. As different
Some of
rumors.
which are just people just like, I smell it in the wind.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it in the water.
Yeah.
It's like no, you'll find out when Rockstar admits it.
What I want to discuss today, because it was something that I discussed on my own in Good Morning Gaming and kind of just theorized about, was that what does this mean? Why did Rockstar finally now decide to officially announce it? My contention was that it's not that far away at this point, and that's why Rockstar finally put it out into the public domain. But I'm interested to hear your take on what you think it might be.
I think it is they did it because they were getting close to having it actually leak. Oh. Because you already had people talking about Bully. Bully 2, even back as far as the Game Awards, was being discussed by industry types as basically an open secret. Mm-hmm. And GTA 6 was kind of on the heels of that, and I think Rockstar wanted to get ahead of that and announce that, like, yes, it's in development. I think GTA 6 is still 4 or 5 years out.
You think so?
Yeah.
I
think we're getting Bully 2 first.
I would agree with that. I'm trying to remember how Rockstar usually rolls with that stuff. When it officially announces it, how much longer.
I think also you may be seeing maybe some jumping the gun, maybe an attempt to sort of like boost, because the GTA Trilogy remaster failed so hard and was such bad press. Like they've never had that before.
Dude, did you see the sales for it?
Oh, the sales were great, yeah. But they
sold 10 million of it before the end of last year.
I mean that IP is bulletproof. Wow. In a way that almost nothing else is.
10 million.
But they've never had
in like a month.
They've never had a PR disaster like that before.
Yeah.
And they still haven't fixed it.
I know.
So give them something else to talk about. Some of this.
I mean, it was so bad that in the financial announcements, they had to mention that Mr. Strelznik, who's the CEO of Take-Two, he had to mention that whatever you saw with that trilogy is no reflection of what's going to happen with Grand Theft Auto going forward. Mm-hmm. I mean, that shows you how bad it was.
Oh, yeah, that's serious.
Their CEO had to mention it.
Yeah, when you have to reassure the shareholders that your last big release will not be what the rest of the releases are, you done fucked up.
So I would say that your idea that they're using GTA 6 to offset the bad news of the GTA trilogy might make sense.
I think they're doing a Starfield Elder Scrolls here. Because you remember back in the day when they did that after the Fallout 76 press, basically when the press event, the press conference at E3 that year was for Fallout 76. That was the game coming out that year, and then suddenly Todd just drops, "Oh yeah, Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 are coming," and like everyone's like, "Oh, okay," and everyone's like, "Oh," but I'm like, "No, they put that out because they knew what Fallout 76 was going to end up being, and they needed people to look forward to the future." And it's funny if you go back and like. I was going back through like this forum, one of these other forums I post on, and people talking about Elder Scrolls and things, and it was like 2019, I think, or 2018 posts, and I was like, when people were talking about these people I know, I've known online for years and years, and they're like, oh, people are like, yeah, Elder Scrolls 6 are going to get that out for like PS5 launch, no problem. Like I'm like, no, like that's like 2026 or something. Like that's like way 2024. I think I said 2024 at the absolute earliest. And they're like, that seems. I mean, why are they announcing it now? I was like, and I was right. Like people at that time, people was like, oh, like there's no way Starfield's later than 2020, and it's like here we are in 2022, end of 2022. We hope your fantasy team hopes
came faster than I thought.
True. I mean, we're still technically in 2020 mentally, right? Yeah. But like, no, that was absolutely what happened. Yeah. They announced these two things that were barely functioning. Todd even said on stage that day, the technology does not exist for us to start Elder Scrolls 6
yet.
Yeah. And like. No one listened.
No,
but like
they're just too excited.
Too excited to see one shot of a city. But like GTA 6, like I think you're kind of in a similar thing. Also, it's like Rockstar can do that because it's not like you're going to hurt it. That thing can come out whenever the hell it comes out, and it's going to sell more copies than there are humans somehow. Like
Ashes in the Hourglass asks,
And
what comes out first, GTA 6 or Elder Scrolls 6? That's a good one.
Oh, I bet those come out the same year.
I think it's GTA. I don't
If I had
remember
to-
Rockstar having
If I had to
really
pick one,
long
If I had to pick
promotional
one, I'd say
cycles.
GTA.
Yeah.
Like GTA might be 2024. Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 still feels like 2 years after Starfield is too soon.
Yes, I agree with that. I think Grand Theft Auto Q3, Q4, 2024.
That would be my
best
kind
guess.
of that'd be kind of my early guess. Yeah, maybe, or at the very least announce. But they don't really announce in the slip usually.
No,
not tremendously.
I do not recall them having exceedingly long promotional cycles for their games. It feels like once they announce it officially,
Well, the other thing
it's
is
a year or two after they come out.
the other thing is there is
Until
still
they
that GTA 5 next gen thing coming.
Right.
Like they still haven't
That's
put
March
GTA 5
15th.
out.
March 15th.
Oh, that's the upgrade?
PS5, Xbox Series X, GTA
So you
5.
got to give that a couple years to sell again for no reason.
Matt, they sold another 5 million copies of Grand Theft Auto 5 in the fourth quarter.
Who doesn't have this?
It is now to 160 million.
Are you people wallpapering bathrooms with this thing? Like, what is going on?
It's crazy, man. Dude, and they're going to sell now on March 15th. They're putting the PS5 and Xbox, and it's going to sell probably another 10 million.
Yeah.
It's nuts, dude.
Is it a full price thing, or is it just
I don't know, actually. I
just
didn't
an
see the
upgrade?
price on
Like
it.
a $10 upgrade? Kind of
I don't
thing?
know. I just know it's coming March 15th. They gave official
But
date.
even so, I'm sure you'll be able to, if you don't have it at all, you'll be able to buy a full price. God, yeah.
It's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Stop buying GTA 5.
There's always
people.
somebody turning 17.
There is. There's millions of them every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true.
I
hate
can
to say
buy
it,
you
but
now. M ratings.
Not Saturnitis. There's always more
Yep.
teenagers. He nailed it.
Yep.
He's right. Let's see.
Can't buy booze yet. You can always buy GTA.
That's right. Next best thing, I guess. Okay, but yeah, I just wanted to get that on your radar to see what you thought about why all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're going to tell you now that it's coming, even though we all knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. Usually when you actually announce something...
Oh, that's a good question. GTA 6 or Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 first? I mean, I would hope Remake Part 2 first, but...
I think that might be...
Square.
very
That might be a
close
photo
to each
finish.
other.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be like same month shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
It's crazy.
Oh.
So anyway, that's our show. We can take some questions from you guys. We finished up a little bit early today because there's no Name That Game. If you joined a little late, the reason we're not doing Name That Game today is because I have nothing to give away anymore. I've given away all the stickers that I had. So while I get new stickers made, we're going to take a hiatus on Name That Game for a little bit. Or we could just play it without prizes. That's up to you guys. If you guys want to play without prizes, I'm willing to do it. I just thought kind of part of the fun was actually getting something if you were to win. If you guys have any questions for us, go at Sifted Games in the chat. It makes it much easier for us to find the questions. It looks like a couple of them are in here already, and we do have time to answer quite a few right now because we have about 20 minutes. JM Rain, gifting Tier 1 subs. Thank you, man. That is so awesome. Ashes in Hourglass says, we don't need no stinking prizes. Okay. Yakov226. Hi, guys. Some time ago, you were surprised Microsoft didn't fire Phil Spencer. What do you think about him now? I think I've actually talked about this already. That he's doing better.
Yeah.
Much better.
Turn it around.
He turned it around, absolutely. He made some really poor decisions for many years in a row, and he had basically driven the business into the ground. And then Game Pass came along. And that's a bold, I have to say, that's a bold move that a good executive will make.
Yep.
And so, yeah, my opinion on him has changed drastically. It doesn't hurt that he has all... I do wonder, too, like, what took so long? Was he trying to convince the folks above him to invest the money, and it just finally, they decided, okay, I don't know.
I think it's probably a combination of that and just having to come up with a pivot from what they were. And I think you're seeing the same thing with Sony. Like, Sony's making the same kind of bold moves here. Which makes it exciting. You know, the bold moves are what change things. You know? Because not just bold moves, and so it's like, you know, like, because Google Stadia was like, we're going to make a thing no one asked for. And it's a bold move in the sense you're throwing a lot of money at a thing nobody wants. But it's a different thing to make a bold move where it's like, I think this could be what everybody wants and don't realize it.
Yep.
And Game Pass turned out to be that. And I think Sony's betting a similar thing on, to some degree, PSVR, too. But probably more so on those 10 gas games.
Yeah. So yeah, he's turned it around. He's doing a great job now. And I wouldn't say that I was wrong back then, because I thought he should have been fired back then. I thought that he was running the Xbox business into the dirt. So
yeah, but
he's lucky they gave him a long leash.
He is. Oh, it's also lucky that they were able to see what he was doing, because like his plan to kind of turn things around feels like it must have been like a 10-year plan. And he's lucky that they believed in it enough to let him execute. But I think we're lucky that they let him do it too, because it looks like it's going to work out very well for us.
It already has
as players.
I mean, I never dreamed I'd have something. You came to me when I was 5 years old and said, someday you'll be able to pay like $10 a month and play all the games you want.
Yeah. But also the acquisitions.
I just spent that on Punch Out. Like, what are you talking about?
But also the acquisitions and the games that are coming down the pipeline in the next few years. Like, that's all going to be on Game Pass. But like, yeah, it's a crazy value that I guess they've found a way to make work monetarily. So I guess
or have they?
I don't know.
I don't really care.
I mean,
I don't care if Microsoft makes money.
I mean, look, if they make money, great. It'll continue. If it doesn't, and the other shoe drops eventually, that'll be a good show. Right?
So, it'll make for a great topic on GameFace, that's for sure.
Otherwise, either way, no skin off ours, right?
Nope. Next up from Vincent, any crazy predictions for tomorrow's Nintendo Direct? Well, since it's all based on at least according to the press release I got from Nintendo today, it's all based on games that are coming in the first half of the year. So there's going to be Kirby. I mean, they're going to
Kirby.
They're
last of Kirby.
Blow out that Kirby game.
Do we get a Breath of the Wild release date?
Doubtful. I mean, didn't you say you thought it's coming earlier than people think?
I think it will.
So then maybe there is something in there.
Maybe.
It's 40 minutes long, also, Nintendo mentioned in the email I got today. So that's pretty long.
Yeah, it means like maybe there's like a 10, 15-minute Breath of the Wild thing in there.
Did you see also?
Or they're going to talk about dumb things for a long time. I don't know. It could be either. Yeah. You're going to get a 40-minute demo of that's the sequel to the Kingdom Battle thing. Or
yeah. Did you see that they're
going to do a tournament for Splatoon 3 or something? Yeah, like, I don't know.
They're going to do a sequel to 1-2 Switch?
Oh, finally. Snipper Clips 2.
I mean, my guess is that will be in there, Vincent. I think probably they'll show off that game for the first time.
You know what? It's about time.
Because it probably is coming in the first half of the year.
You know what? It's about time to show off, if they were going to do it. I can't imagine they wouldn't. Is Ring Fit 2.
Yeah.
Time for a follow-up to Ring Fit.
It still sells, like, if you saw, like, the end-of-year sales charts, it still sells really well.
But, like, I think more content, a lot of people are ready for more content on that.
Yeah. Workout games, you need that steady.
And 5 new Labo releases.
El Guapo 3385. Matt and Shane watched and finished Reacher Season 1 on Prime and love it. Anyone else check it out yet? I have not watched Reacher.
Nope. I forgot it happened until yesterday, in fact.
Yeah, I haven't watched it at all.
I barely had time to keep up with Boba Fett. So
yeah, I haven't watched that yet because I always wait for Disney Plus to get all their episodes out, and then I just get it for a month.
Last one tonight.
I know. I've been waiting. It sounds like the last couple episodes have been really good.
Oh, last couple have been peak Star Wars.
Yeah,
been really good.
I heard it.
I mean, I liked the first few episodes, but they were not. They didn't set the world on fire. Second one was good.
Well, it sounds like he's not in some episodes at all.
No, he's barely in the last two. Because I think there's something going on where, like, because I'd heard rumors around the time Mando season 2 ended that their plan was to do a bunch of the shows simultaneously and kind of alternate episodes from each one each week to tell like the big interleave story. And clearly that was too ambitious and they didn't do that. But I do think you have a thing here where like Boba Fett becomes Mandalorian season 3 at one point. And I think you just had a thing where they thought they were going to tell the stories parallel to the point that you had to get Mando to a certain point to finish the Boba Fett story.
Gotcha.
And here's the thing. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thrilled to see all the Mandalorian stuff come back early, and I didn't expect it. I don't need Boba Fett to be in the show all the time. Boba Fett is a blank slate who was never actually cool.
Yeah, I would disagree with that one.
He looks cool, but as a character, he is told not to fuck his job up. He then sits around and follows a guy. He calls his boss. His boss comes and does his job for him. He whines about how his boss is doing his job for him.
That's right.
He shoots at Luke and misses a shot that could have saved the Empire.
Yeah.
And then he hangs out with a slug for a year, admiring a guy on a wall. And then when Luke comes back and does all this stuff, he jumps across a gap with a rocket pack to try to shoot a guy with a melee weapon, and then gets hit in the back by a blind man and screams like a teenager as he falls in a giant sand vagina. So, I'm sorry, Boba Fett's not cool.
That's great. You're right, though. I thought he was cool, though, when I was a kid because he didn't say much.
Oh, he's like stoic. But the thing is, I even noticed this when I was at Disneyland at Star Tours, because we got the thing from Geonosis where he tries to hunt you down, and then at the end you hit the sonic mine back at him and knock him away. I'm like, Boba Fett can't do anything right. Yeah. Even in the show, he fails a bunch of stuff. He's
kind of a buffoon.
Yeah. Boba Buffoon. But I do like that, in the show they're making him sort of he's a good man.
Yeah.
Like he also loves animals, which is not a thing I saw coming with Boba Fett. But I'm here for it. I'm into it. Just the amount of times Fennec Shand is just like, what is wrong with you? Is kind of funny. But I will say, like, I cared about everything way more when it jumped to the Mandalorian stuff, just because I'm more invested in those characters. Because the brilliance of the Mandalorian is they said, here's the character you think Boba Fett is. Just he's another guy.
Yeah.
Like, Mando is
because
as
he's
badass.
Really not that guy.
No. Mando is as badass as we've always... Mando is as badass as your tattoo of Boba Fett thinks Boba Fett is. Right?
That's great. Anyway, I've watched... lately, I watched the first half of the last season of Ozark, which was amazing. It does... The first couple episodes do start a little slow. By the time you get to the last episode of the first half season, you're like, how are you going to leave me hanging here, waiting for God knows how long for the final seven episodes? I watched The Wheel of Time, which is like this cross between like Game of Thrones and some other like high fantasy.
Oh, believe it or not, that predates Game of Thrones.
Well, I know. It's like, so I didn't realize that it was based on books.
Like a 24 book series. Yeah.
And I watched it, and I thought it was awesome. I'm like, wow, like, I can't wait for the next season. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go online and, like, see if other people... people who read the books hate the show.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, the women are characters now, so that's a big problem. I read the first book, I read most of the first book of Wheel of Time back when I was, like younger, teenage, because there were only, like, 8 books out at that point.
Yeah.
I couldn't get through it. It's garbage. It was and, like... There's an actual graph I've seen where the Robert Jordan is a terrible writer. Was a terrible writer. There's a graph of like all the repeated phrases in all the books, and it's like there's like one character constantly smooths her skirt when she's nervous. One tugs her braid. There's one of the books. The tug or braid line phrase is used 108 times in the book.
Well, so, it's a signifier that she's nervous.
Yeah, but
you
come up with something else, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched most of this first season of that. I thought it was way better than the book. I read the book 25 years ago or something, and I didn't finish it because I thought it was dumb. The show was better.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I think, also, like, just visually, it was more interesting. The characters, like, there's a lot of differences in the book. I think they're all improvements. Yeah. So, sorry, purists. I also think the same thing about a lot of Tolkien stuff. So, I do not have a hugely high opinion of high fantasy literature.
I generally don't either, honestly. I just end up watching the movies and the shows.
Yeah, people are always a little surprised by how little science fiction and fantasy I read, as opposed to watch.
Yeah, I'm that way too. I watch this stuff.
Like if I'm going to read books, most of the novels I've read are more like interpersonal like thing. I'm more of a Jane Austen. Not that I don't actually like Jane Austen very much, but that is more of the tone of the modern novels, or like magical realism, things like that. Yeah. But I'm not a big. I've never really read any fantasy books I like other than Game of Thrones. Like I like Game of Thrones because they're about characters and politics.
Yeah. And I watched season 2 of The Witcher over the holidays.
I still haven't seen
trapped
that.
Trapped at my mom's house. I watched the
I had nothing else to do. Nothing else to. You might as well watch a guy who's making the same noise you are.
Exactly. And I thought that was really good. It did. I don't know. I thought the ending wasn't great. Like, it didn't really build up to anything where I was like, oh, I can't wait for the next season. But I thought the season was good overall.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I heard that it kind of like there's an assumption that season 3 is coming, and it just sort of stops.
Yeah. It doesn't wrap up in a satisfying way to keep me like excited for the next one.
At least it doesn't do the multiple timeline thing with no hints this time.
Right.
I thought that was a little irritating in the first one.
Yep. Minority Games. What game are you looking forward to the most? Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League or Gotham Knights?
Oh God. Pass. I don't think I'm gonna like either of them. I'm not saying either they're gonna be bad, but I don't think I'm going to like either of them.
I'm more excited for Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League because the pedigree of the developer I feel is superior.
Yeah. But it's weird because
otherwise,
Suicide Squad has a better developer pedigree. Gotham Knights has more characters I care about, so I'm kind of stuck there.
Okay.
You know.
Yep.
I'd rather play a game about Batgirl and Nightwing made by Rocksteady. That would be
the crossover of the two games into one. Yeah. Makes sense. Iviz, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. That's awesome. Deadly Virus Evo with all these new studio acquisitions. What does Microsoft and Sony announce this summer for like E3 era period?
Not that Sony participates in that.
I don't know that they announce that much. I think they show.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff they've been talking about and announcing, they're going to show us teaser trailers.
Microsoft just has to start giving us release dates for all these things we know are in the pipeline.
Avowed.
Sony.
Hellblade 2.
Yeah, Hellblade 2, I guess, is way out.
It seems that way. Some people seem to think it's coming at the end of the year. I don't know where they're getting that from, but
I mean, I've heard that. I haven't heard it from reliable enough people to want to put it on my fantasy team.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way.
Here's a good one from Danny Endurance. What do you think of the massive drop-off in Halo's multiplayer numbers? Are either of you still playing? I am not still playing.
I am not. I mean, I never really played the multiplayer to begin with.
I have stopped playing it because now things are just going off. Like there's
too much other stuff to do.
Yeah, I just don't have time to play any multiplayer.
That's the thing I don't understand. I mean, I know I'm kind of whatever you'd call them in the old '90s surveys. You'd call me a mega gamer, in the sense that I play everything.
Right.
But like I don't. It's alien to me the idea of sticking with a multiplayer game that long because I want to play other things.
Yeah.
Multiplayer or otherwise. Like I used to have that problem. I was part of that like little online gaming group that I had for years, but like they wanted to get all the achievements in these multiplayer things, and we'd grind those for nights at a time. And I'm just like, I want to play something else. I don't want to play the same thing every time.
Matt, what I've discovered is that I try to fill every nook and cranny and crevice of my life with gaming somehow. Like whatever shooter I'm playing at the time, I shoehorn it in like 5 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Like I'll render something like. At night, I'll be rendering Good Morning Gaming for the next morning's episode or whatever, because those go up like 11 o'clock p.m. my time. And so I'm always working on those really late. And while like that show is rendering, I'll run outside and I'll play a game of Rocket League, or up until a couple weeks ago, I was playing a game of Halo Infinite. So I'm a little worried for myself that I do that. Like I do feel like I have some kind of a subconscious tick almost where I am always trying to make sure, like my mantra that I say to myself is, ABP, always be playing, because I feel like for me to do what I'm doing without the resources that most people have to do it, I always have to be playing a game. Or if I'm not always playing the game, I'm writing a script for something related to the games that I've been playing. I have a problem drawing the line and compartmentalizing my life and separating like my work from my pleasure. So that's something I could work on. It hasn't been easy. Like I said before, like I've admitted that I'm addicted to games. Like I just am.
I think I'm kind of the opposite, where I think about like if we weren't doing this show, like I don't know how much I'd play. Period. Like I would probably have gotten Dying Light 2. I probably would have done that. I mean, this month would have been probably an exception. I would probably get Dying Light 2 and Horizon and Elden Ring because they're all many things that I like a lot. But like the last couple of months. Like I think I would go weeks without playing stuff at this point. I think games have sort of shown me and like some of the stuff I played in the last like month. When we had kind of there's a bit of a lull between the beginning of the year and Arceus.
Yep.
Like I played Greedfall.
Yeah,
went back and played old Skyrim. Some of that stuff. And
you
like,
do that more than I do. You go back and play older games more than I do, for sure.
Yeah, and only a little bit. It's not like I sat down and played Greedfall for hours on end. I was just like, I'll play some of this, and I was done. I didn't go back and play. I did something else.
Yeah.
Like I am definitely I feel like I'm hitting a point where like if I was left to my own devices, I would be very, very picky about what I played.
Okay.
And a lot of stuff would be like kind of going back to play the stuff I knew I enjoyed.
But didn't have time
again,
to finish.
And realize, and there's also like I said about the Dying Light 2 takes place when I'm 60, and I'm like, that's not that far away. That's like 2008.
Yeah,
that's 2008 in the other direction. That's not that far.
That's scary.
It's
really scary.
Like there's a element of like playing Skyrim. I'm just like, I'm probably never gonna play this game again. Like this is probably the last time I'm ever gonna play Skyrim, because why would I do that again? I played it 4 times.
I said that like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is the last time I played Skyrim.
I think of that when I look at all my shelves of all those games I have in my office there. It's like I'm like, I am probably never going to touch 95% of these again.
I've been coming to that realization too.
The rest of my life.
Like I looked at my library. I use my library sometimes to come
like the
up
next
with...
time someone picks this game up, is that going to be my niece getting rid of it for after I'm gone?
I'm dead. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I use my library sometime to come up with the games for Name That Game. Mm-hmm. So sometimes if I'm not inspired for a game or whatever, I'm like, okay, I need to come up with this because I need to write the clues. I'll just walk out and I'll just stare at my shelves and just look through all the games. And that hit me the other day. I'm like, first of all, I touched one of the games and there was that much dust on top of one of the piles. And I was like, how long has it been since I've touched any of these?
Yep.
Like,
am I going to play Golden Axe Beast Rider again?
No.
No.
So why do I even have it? Like, I don't know. There's deep psychological questions.
Yeah, this Q&A went a weird direction here. I didn't mean to get us into mortality here.
No, I think anyone our age thinks about that.
My birthday's next week. I'm thinking about it,
From Sneaky. How you doing, brother? After watching Digital Foundry talk about Pokemon Arceus and comparing other Switch open world games that look amazing, not on the cloud, do you think the issue is Game Freak doesn't have the chops to make a great Pokemon game we all want? Yes.
Yeah, I think
it doesn't have the engine to do it.
I know that's been an ongoing argument for like the last 3 Pokemon Company Game Freak games, but like I think that's settled.
Yeah.
I think between Sword and Shield and the Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Arceus, like, yeah, they're just not that good.
They can design the hell out of a game.
Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to building it and building an engine for it,
yeah, which makes them rather unique in Nintendo world, where like most of Nintendo's
work closely with Nintendo.
Yeah. Because you forget that they're not people forget. I think they're not a first-party Nintendo team.
People just assume, but
yeah, it seems like because they only work with Nintendo. But like, yeah, they could definitely use a little more. I don't know, more support or less hubris. I don't know.
Yeah,
they just feel so far behind the curve compared to everything else Nintendo puts out.
Ed Rock, we did talk about Tommy Tallarico stepping down as a television CEO early. It wasn't a topic. I discussed it in the show Open.
Yeah, it was more of a...
OCD Master, what camera and what mics do you use for the show? That's a good question. I use, for our mics... Well, I guess I can't really show you because you need to hear me. I use the Audio-Technica AT 2020s. They're a good mid-range price condenser mic. I think if you listen to the show, the podcast version of the show, I think the mics sound pretty great. Now, when I record Good Morning Gaming, I do that at home. And I just got a brand new USB mic for Christmas from my aunt. And it is a Rode NT USB. I think these mics have better low end. I think GameFace sounds better overall. But to use these mics, you have to have a mixing board that has phantom power. These are not powered mics. So they're kind of a pain in the butt to use. Like whenever I go to record Pactor Factor, I have to take a mic and I have to take this mixing board with me. And in fact, I'll be packing all this stuff up here in about 10 minutes because I'll pack everything up now for the shoot on Thursday. So anyway, we use Audio-Technica AT 2020s, and then we have Panasonic 4K cameras. I'm not going to... It's sort of like HC... I don't even remember. But they're Panasonics, and they're 4K, and we have 3 of them, obviously, that we flip through. But yeah, that's most of the gear that we use. And then obviously we have a TriCaster that we use. All that stuff goes into the TriCaster, and it kind of is like a big video and audio mixer that mixes it all together before the show goes out to you guys. Okay, we'll take one more, and then we're out of time, if I can find one. From Geno Mike 1, MSQMT, Matt and Shane's Quick Movie Take. That's a new show idea. Any interest in the Oscars? Oscar predictions or general quick comment on the topic? I'm just going to start by saying I don't give a crap about the Oscars, and I'll turn it over to Matt.
I do care about the Oscars, but more of an inertia thing because I've watched them since I was like 3. I haven't really looked too much. I haven't seen hardly any of the nominees this year. I got to do a big Oscar catch-up month, I think. But I think my biggest shocker was I was surprised that Lady Gaga...
Nominations came out today.
Nominations were this morning. I'm surprised that Lady Gaga got snubbed for House of Gucci and Jared Leto.
I haven't watched that yet.
Neither have I, but it was in the conversation. I am stunned and pleased that Nightmare Alley got nominated for Best Picture. Guillermo del Toro getting some recognition there. I like that. Mm-hmm. I don't love all his movies, but I do think he's one of the hardest working directors in movies right now. Beyond that, Yeah, I need to look through more. I wasn't able to memorize all the nominees, but a lot of it made sense. I'm not sure who the front runner will be for Best Picture. Coda is probably an outside favorite, but no, I'll have a clearer idea as we get closer, and I've seen more of them. Yeah, that was my big surprise. Was Nightmare Alley is in the Best Picture category.
What did Billie Eilish get nominated for? I was like, how was she nominated for an Oscar?
Was it a song? Was there a song?
Maybe. I don't know. That's why I was asking. I just saw her name in the headline or whatever.
Oh, and West Side Story is in there. West Side Story is interesting because West Side Story was a bomb.
Didn't Spielberg just set a record for most Oscar nominations today?
I think so, yeah. But West Side Story tanked, hard.
Have you watched it?
No. I hear it's very good, though.
Yeah.
And it was a huge success, so I knew it was going to be in the nominations for this.
I hate musicals, except for West Side Story.
A lot of people say that, I think.
It's the only one I can watch. Mm-hmm. The rest of them, no way.
Well, this one, he got director, and it got nominated for picture, and a few things in there. I don't know. He could win. I don't know. Remember, the thing to look at, of course, is best director nominees versus best picture. If it's not director nomination, it's probably not going to win best picture.
Yeah.
So that's your short list.
Okay.
I'll have a more clear idea of things as we get closer to it, as I've seen more of these things. But yeah, I'm just happy for Guillermo del Toro today.
Okay. That's it for GameFace 288.
Oh, No Time to Die theme. That was what Billie Eilish was there for.
And then Jan Rain
and Dune got snubbed. I wasn't happy about that.
She has dyslexia. She forgot her lyrics in concert at Coachella. You'd be shocked at how many artists, when they perform live, have a teleprompter with their lyrics.
Yeah.
People used to make fun of Ozzy Osbourne for it, and he legitimately needed it because he's,
Yeah.
But most artists now use teleprompters when they perform. I don't really blame them. Some of these bands have 50, 60 songs.
Yeah. I'm always amazed. Look, I don't play a musical instrument. I don't know how any of that works or how that brain works. But sometimes it's like, you just know all the songs on the guitar. You just stand up there and play them.
It's crazy. I was in bands. The most songs any of my bands ever had was 12 originals. And it's intense, dude. But you practice so much that it just becomes muscle memory. And you got to realize a song lasts 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. In an hour, you can practice that song 20 times. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. It is crazy when you think about it. Some of these bands, these jam bands, which I hate jam band music, but these bands and musicians are amazing. And they play these songs that are 14 minutes long. And then they play for 4 hours. And they play every note perfectly. It's it really is mind-blowing. I gotta hand it to them. I'm a musician, but I'm not a musician like that.
Yeah, because I played a lot of songs in Guitar Hero and Rock Band a lot of times, but I never got to a point where I could play it without looking at the fucking screen.
I know. It's crazy, for sure. So anyway, that's it for GameFace 288. I do want to say, last week, we set a record for one of our best viewerships ever. Now, granted, the whole Sony buying Bungie thing, I think, was a huge bump, but I feel like we're starting to get some momentum.
Well, now you've done it.
Now I've done. Now it's doomed. It's all over. Look, if you love the show, and it does seem like there are more people watching the show live and enjoying the show than ever, head to patreon.com/sifted and pledge, please. That's how we're supported 100%. We have no other means of income other than our Patreon. We can make minimal money off of YouTube. We have a handful of stragglers left on our old subscription system on Sifted. I've even thought about maybe, I hate to say it, booting you guys off of that and kicking you off to Patreon. Because at this point, there's so few of you left on our old subscription system. But anyway, if you want to help us, head to patreon.com/sifted. You can give us $1 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever you want. Generally, you just have to pay $4 or more per month to get all our content early. I'm trying to figure out right now what to do with Good Morning Gaming's delay. Because it's a daily show that comes every morning.
And stuff keeps happening in the morning.
Yeah, and it's like posting this 4 days late isn't such a big deal.
No.
But when it's Good Morning Gaming and the date is February 1st and it's now February 7th, it's not a good look.
Right.
So if any of you guys want to, you're our patrons, you guys are paying for our content. So I would really appreciate if you guys in the comments of this episode could let me know what you're okay with as far as delaying Good Morning Gaming. Because I think the show everyone seems to love it. All our patrons love it. And even like the episodes that we're posting on YouTube that are delayed are getting like a good amount of comments and stuff. I do feel like it could be something that could help us financially. So you guys pay the bills. So whatever you guys say about how long we should delay it is what we'll do. But I do want to kind of put it on the table because I do think like maybe a day or 2 day delay, you guys are still getting your money's worth, but then it could help build so that we have more money and we can do more stuff for you guys. So anyway, any opinions on that stuff, greatly appreciated. So head to patreon.com/sifted and hook us up if you can. If you have no money, and I've been there, I've been broke many times in my life, I get it. You can still help us for free if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. You just link your Amazon Prime account with your Twitch account, and then you just subscribe to our channel. You just go to twitch.tv/siftedgames, and there's a little button that you click. There's a drop down, and then you just click subscribe for free after you've linked your accounts. It's very easy, and it's $2.50 a month for free. It costs you nothing. It's a part of your Amazon Prime membership. If more people could do that, we'd be in such better shape. It's frustrating to see people who have done it for a long time and they don't do it. Maybe we need to message it more often. I don't know what we need to do, but it could be a huge help to us. And lately our numbers have been sagging there as well. So anything you can do to help us, we just really appreciate it. We need every dollar we can get to keep everything going here. This is also like one of our last couple episodes here in this studio. We're getting booted out of here soon because they're selling the building, and we're struggling to find a new studio that we can afford because we just don't have any money. So anything you can do to help, we'd really appreciate it. We'll try to bring back Name That Game next week. If you guys are cool without prizes, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And Gino, Mike, I will definitely give a more thorough Oscar prediction thing closer to the Oscars so you all can win your Oscar pools.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. It's like fantasy football for Oscars, kind of.
Yeah. And remember, it has nothing to do with how good the movie is.
That's right.
It's all politics.
That's right. So there you go. That's GameFace episode 288. Thanks to everybody who watched the show live. You guys are awesome. Again, like last week, we had like one of our record audiences for a stream of GameFace. So things are trending in the right direction. Let's keep it going. Thanks again, you guys. Have a great week. GameFace is up and out.